Hello and welcome to another episode of the Underhive Lorekeepers podcast, your number one source for news within Primus and beyond. As always, I am your host, 20-time best sports winning and chosen voice of the people, Spamiel. Joining me tonight, as always, outspoken supporter of violence against abhumans and author of the book Xenos, more like Xenot in my hive. That's right, it is Nathan, the Manvent. Nathan, thank you for joining us, and might I ask, how are you, buddy?
I'm upset. I'm upset with that. The only thing I like about that is the title of the book, because I totally agree with it.
Oh, I screwed that up. I was going to say, author of the book and current number one on the Oprah's book club.
Oprah's book
I
club.
should have.
Yes,
Yeah.
of course. It should have been on that. How am I? I'm okay. I think the Christmas season, the holiday season is starting to take an early effect on me. So, when you get that time where you're leading up into a holiday and your body goes, we can get sick now. And you're like, no, we can't. But I think I can feel the tender caress of a nurgling stroking my ear and also trying to kiss my eyeball.
Is this your subtle way of making fun of me for not having a voice for like 4 days?
Do you know what? I believe the same nurgling that was spooning your head is the same nurgling that has worked its way over to me and has desired something a little bit more anti-Xenos.
Well, you shouldn't kiss me so aggressively.
That's what the nurgling said.
That's what the nurgling said. So Scummers, a lot of you may have seen on Instagram, I had a really bad throat infection and my voice was horrific. We tried to record and we started sort of getting into the opening and Nathan just stopped me and was like, mate, no, you sound like a boy about to attend his own bar mitzvah. Like, it genuinely sounds like you're reading from the Torah. Stop. So our episode has been delayed. We are, in fact, recording on the night the episode was supposed to be released.
Yeah, it's a bit sad. But
and now you're getting sick. What the heck?
I am. I guess it's just this time of the year. But I do remember distinctly saying to you that it would be better to just record static. But it didn't sound good, and I think I'm not sounding good right now. But listen to feedback. Let me know if you think I do sound good, and
you
only
don't.
if you think I sound good.
You don't.
No, not you. You're not a listener.
But I am listening. That's
You're
right.
not a listener.
You just got lawyered. In the spirit of keeping our health and our ability to get this episode out, let us make this tight. We're going to keep it tight episode,
Classic
tight
Lorekeeper
intro,
style.
tight Lorekeeper, tight. Tight like my wife when I say, hey, do you mind if I spend a large amount of money on Necromunda terrain? And she goes, no. She actually says a lot more words that are 4 letters and rhyme with garbage truck, an idiot. But let's not worry about that right now. So
No, those words. I'm gonna look at my lexicanium for words that rhyme with garbage truck.
an idiot, and I actually have something really, really good to tell you. We have quite possibly our single most popular Spamiel correction ever. Literally to the point of, and I have it written down here specifically, 19 people have contacted me about this correction. Firstly, we're all 19 of you when I was actively hunting for a Spamiel correction for Nathan.
It's for me.
It is for
okay.
you.
Okay, all right.
I don't remember what episode it was, but we were talking about Van Saar, and I was talking about Van Saar saying that I wanted to do like a bunch of Neotechs, and you said give them all hand flamers because hand flamers are a sidearm for close combat and that sort of thing there. And, you know, you get in close combat and burn everyone. Nathan, and I'm going to quote one of our readers here, you dumb idiot. Hand flamers are not sidearms. They're a template weapon. They are a pistol, yes, but they do not have the sidearm trait. So, you've been corrected. You've been corrected by 19 separate people at once. It was like a choir of people going, he's wrong! So,
Did I say that?
yes.
You sure you didn't say it? I'm sure that when we were talking, because I can vaguely remember this because it was my episode, and I vaguely remember you talking about these hand flamers. I'm sure it was you that brought it up because you were like, how do I make them more deadly in close combat, blah, blah, blah. I can turn them into proper killing machines. All I got to do is equip them with sidearm equipped weaponry. And yeah, it was you that said, flamers work. And look...
Really?
Yeah, well, let's be honest, neither of us are great with the rules, so I might have agreed with you, perhaps that's what the listeners are picking up on, but I think most definitely it was you that was saying hand flamers, sidearm, win-win, cha-ching. I actually remember you saying cha-ching. It's like that time that you said that, you know, 2nd of November.
No, wasn't it like the 19th of September?
19th of September. See? You've had to correct me there because about something that you knew you got wrong. It's embarrassing. So you're trying to deflect this onto me.
Was the hand flamers really me?
I believe so. Yeah, totally. Oh, we've got to keep it a tight intro, so we're not going checking it now. Oh. But look, for those who listen to this episode, if I'm wrong about this, don't worry about it. We'll just let this one slide through to the keeper. But if I am right, please email in and let us know. No. Move on. So we'll take that as a Spaniel correction, not a Nathan correction. Well done, audience. Thank you very much. I did miss that one. Yeah.
That's kind of crap.
Are we happy with that?
Yeah. All right. Well, all 19 of you, dickheads.
You can't call people that.
I can. I just had 19 people tell me that I got something wrong, and okay, yeah, cool. Takes the whole.
I'll reiterate the point. If I'm wrong about this, please don't email in. It's probably not going to be beneficial to the show. Look, I'm going to bypass your inability to talk about sidearms correctly and try to blame it on me, and mainly because I have a little ribbon tied around my finger, and that little ribbon is to tell me to remind myself
buy milk
about. That's the other ribbon.
Oh.
Now I don't know what the first ribbon's for. Oh, no, wait. I know what it's for because I'm wearing it as well. T-shirts. We need to promote T-shirts.
We need to promote T-shirts. Okay.
Yes. T-shirts, people. Underhive Lorekeepers has T-shirts. We won't forget so that you don't forget, but you also remind us so that we don't forget.
Because we are terrible marketers.
We're terrible marketers. Currently, we have sold... How many was it, Sam? 5? 6?
No, like 4. We've sold 4.
Yes, 4.
It's ridiculous.
Do you know what? This time last year, we didn't sell 4 T-shirts.
Yeah.
Internet high five to everybody out there.
Yeah.
Bam.
Like...
That's to everybody, not just the people who bought the shirts. You get a double high five. But everybody else, thank you for supporting us.
Yeah, that's crazy. Like... And people are like, oh, okay, you sold 4 shirts, whatever. But, like... There are 4 huge dorks out there wearing the same shirts that we wear. No, like... I'm also a huge dork. I wear the T-shirt with our podcast symbol all the time. And
I do as well.
Yeah, but
mainly around the house.
I'm going to wear it on Christmas Day.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
I'll do that for our photos. My family will hate me for it.
Oh,
They'll be like, why couldn't you wear something festive? I'll be like, this is festive. I celebrate this more than anything else.
Honestly, the only reason I'm here right now is to promote the podcast.
I'll try and get like a little stamp to put on the side of the turkey before it's served. Get a photo of it.
Yes. So to all 4 of you.
More importantly,
thank you so much.
To all 4.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
That's genuinely crazy. Like, for all of you who've bought them, like, send us a photo.
Oh yeah, please do. Send a photo, please. Send it through, whether it's on Instagram or email, or what other platform are we on?
OnlyFans.
Patreon, if you're on there. OnlyFans,
Yep.
yeah, our OnlyFans is
Yep.
only just starting.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's there's a lot to be
It's
desired.
just pictures of t-shirts.
Us in t-shirts.
Us in
and nothing
t-shirts.
else. We're not doing that.
We really should.
Most importantly, though, ready for the awesome segue? Where can we get these t-shirts from, Spamule?
Teespring. There's a link in the link tree in our show notes. I genuinely didn't know what question you wanted to ask just then, and
sort of how
I've gotten
succinct, how
quite
tight.
bashful because I'm genuine. I'm blown away by the fact that 4 people have bought our shirts.
Yeah. Thank you for your support, everybody. We do
Yes.
appreciate it and value it. And yeah, please send us a picture of you in that t-shirt.
Yeah,
We would love it.
and pants, and pant. Please. The last time I asked for photos of things, the One Punch Orlock sent me a lot of pictures of his butt.
Yeah, I did
Yeah.
see those one. Which gang are you collecting? And it was just a strategically placed gang box between a pair of cheeks. And I'm
Yes.
not going to say they're face cheeks.
Yes, but
They were not face. They're exactly those cheeks.
that
They
man,
were butt
that
cheeks.
man works out.
Yeah.
But moving away from minor forms of internet flattery, I want to give a shout out to our newest Patreons since our last episode. And they include Tom, the Hive Builder, my boy Jordan from Great Scott Hobbies, Jonathan, Alfonso the Traitor, who, just quickly, awesome name,
No.
Lee, Lloyd, Alistair, and then just my dude Chad. Like
Chad.
total Chad.
Yeah, right.
Also,
I do like Alfonso the Trader though, because he's like, Judas was taken.
yeah, Judas.
Obviously, the next
Judas
best
was
thing.
he actually used to hang out with Judas and then betrayed him.
He was a double betrayer. Anyway, sorry, I can't what you were going to say.
No, that's tight.
Tight.
Also,
Tight, we're both unwell.
I want to give a shout out to a listener and like dude I've become pretty tight with, Johnny from Reddit, who sort of reached out and has given me some awesome tips and advice on the show and just things we can tighten up, things we can work on when it comes to the sort of post-production and that sort of stuff. Johnny, you're awesome. And yeah, that is as positive as I'm going to be because it's Reddit, and also your opinions are wrong.
This was gonna be
And
I thought this was going to be really positive. No,
yeah.
you just like
no,
derailed
really
yourself.
positive. Johnny's awesome, but also you suck.
Yeah, right.
Because it's
Okay,
the internet.
that's the right attitude for Reddit. Absolutely.
Yeah, but no, Johnny's awesome. And your Patreon's awesome.
No. Yeah, our Patrons are awesome. Also, if you enjoy the show and you are interested in supporting the podcast, please shoot over to patreon.com/Underhive Lorekeepers podcast. We are 100% funded by the goodwill of our audience, though we do this for the love of our hobby. So, when we're talking about that funded, that just allows us to run our competitions and pump things into the show and do our listener laws and make some really fun and exclusive content, not only for the show but also for Patreon as well. We also run additional polls on Patreon, and we also have additional content. If you're looking for another way to support us, get onto our social media, Instagram, Facebook and YouTube. A like and subscribe helps us grow and get our particular brand of lore out into the world. All of our links are in our show notes, and please don't forget to give us one of those tasty 5-star reviews on your preferred podcast platform. Also, if you can do it in a shirt, that even makes it better.
And sign up for other podcast platforms and give us 5-star reviews there. Don't be afraid to get your friends and family's phones. Subscribe them to our podcast. Like the YouTube page. Steal their identity. Buy our shirts. It's all different ways to support us.
We're turning this into a pyramid scheme. Okay,
Yeah,
cool.
it's a reverse funnel system.
It's a reverse funnel system. My apologies. Yeah, a reverse hive system. Yeah, I get you.
The funds funnel up to us, then we can, I don't know, man, buy cheese.
I like cheese. It's a good time of the year for cheese.
It's the most
But
wonderful time of the year.
just a note on the additional content for our Patreon away from Samuel's pyramid scheme.
Reverse funnel system.
Reverse funnel system is that, like, yeah, our hobby diary is there, and we're probably going to be starting something new on there. We're spitballing an idea at the moment, don't you reckon, Sam? Like it's
how you got
our
sick.
way.
We just kept spitting at each other.
Yeah, it's like, is this how spitballing actually works? I'm like, mouthful split. I'm like, I don't know, man, but I don't feel like it's working. But
we've got some cool stuff coming up.
We've got some cool stuff in the pipeline, which will be free content stuff. And it's honestly, it's just another way for us to get out there and talk, basically record one of our normal conversations and just throw it up there and see what people think.
Yeah.
So it'll be great to see more people added to that, because we want to get a little bit of feedback on on that type of content as well, and just see if that's what you guys are looking for.
And that's exactly it. So on our Patreon, like Nathan said, every single month we have a free hobby diary up there. It might be us chatting about different projects we got at the time, just different kits that are coming out, parts we want to use from them, just chats, really. And on top of that, we are also just doing additional content every single month. There's another episode from anywhere between like an hour and a half and like 3 hours, I think.
3 hours.
In typical Lorekeeper nonsense.
Yeah.
It's a little bit more loosey-goosey.
We try to keep it tight.
Yeah,
we try to keep. Do you know what? I will say, hand on my heart, I try not to go on tangents, because I've had some feedback about, like, just like tight control, but I don't know how to stop. I have a problem.
I have a problem. My podcast has a derail problem. But
Our podcast. Interesting.
Check it out. Jump onto the Patreon. We're at 61 paid members now, so which means we are 39 away from me getting a butt tattoo of our podcast logo.
Oh, wow, yeah. I'm not going to say I forgot about it, but I wasn't keeping track of our numbers, but that's good. 39.
Yeah. I reckon we'll have it by mid-year.
I'm going to do a Christmas drive amongst my family.
Yeah, do it. Steal their identities. T-shirts.
No,
Patreon.
No.
Good point. Now you've admitted to the crime. So if I do it,
exactly.
you'll go to prison. But yeah, tight. Nathan, what are we talking about this episode? Because this is your episode. I don't know what we're doing. You took control of our last Patreon episode. You've taken control of this episode, and you've written up another one. So what are we talking about?
What we're actually going to be talking about in today's episode is some of the greatest fighters, I would say, in the entire galaxy, the entire Imperium. Yeah.
Oh, the Iron Warriors. Oh, I've been waiting for this episode. Okay, so
again, yet another Necromunda-centric episode around Iron Warriors, of course.
Okay,
right.
Who are we talking about?
No.
The Elder?
No. We're talking about people who defend against the most heinous of enemies, pit fighters. So, like, these are the people who go off and kill the pits to stop the pits from consuming all of Necromunda.
Okay, gag idea. It's just a bunch of people hunting for the settlement of Big Hole.
Yeah. as in their process, all they do, like, their entire ethos behind their gang is to fill in holes. So you dig a hole and the pit fighters will be there.
Oh my god, they're your mortal enemies.
Yeah, I was thinking that.
Oh my god, the Dirt Grub execution force.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, I think somebody just dug a hole. Mobilize, everybody.
I smell freshly turned sod.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm assuming that's what pit fighters do. Like, they end pits. They fill them back in, or at least they put, like, conduits in there or something to stop people from getting access to that pit. It's a noble task.
It's a great task. So, all right. So we are I guess you've inadvertently walked me into a Gangs of Yesteryear episode, and
Oh, true, it is too. Yeah.
are we doing a Gangs of Yesteryear on the Pit Fighters?
I was legitimately thinking they were the guys filling in the holes, but yeah, we can do the other pit fighters as well. Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, that sounds even better.
So they would basically be the people that go around fixing the potholes in the Necromundan highways. They are the
That's it.
unspoken heroes of the roads.
Yes.
Done.
There's people out there calling themselves road warriors and all that kind of stuff. No, you are not. You are warriors that fight on a road. These are warriors that fight against the road. Well done, Pit Fighters. That's our Pit Fighter episode, guys. We had our single gang idea from it. Now we're going to actually move on to the other lesser-known branch of Pit Fighters, the ones that fight for entertainment in the great arenas. I know, a bit dull, but...
Gladiators with jobs. What a bunch of losers.
Boo. Didn't see them filling in any potholes on the road. God. I have prepared a bit of a read, and because I know that you're trying to eat something at the moment, you can start reading first.
Okay. I'll finish this mouthful of Zupa Duper. Sorry. Pit slaves. Pit slaves are the unfortunates that end up being sold to the guilders by gangs or watchmen and are kept in the Underhive to work in mines, work as pack slaves, or simply work as pit fighters. Some are dangerous criminals who deserve nothing better. Others have just been unlucky enough to have kin that couldn't raise a ransom when they got dragged off by an unfriendly gang. So already you notice the way that this is describing the different strata of individual here.
Yeah.
It talks about how they are unfortunate. They're being sold to guilders by gangs or the watchmen, but it automatically then implies that they're on the wrong side of the law, and it then puts them into place as, employees with jobs. But this it's going to be a very Necromunda centric episode. But I actually have a question. I don't know if you go into it here. So please correct me if you do. What is your opinion on slavery within the Imperium?
And also, my mind.
Like in general, like do you
In our modern world.
In our modern world. So I think we can take a formal stance that the Underhive Lorekeepers, we support slavery.
What?
Is this not where we're going with this episode?
You mean by buying certain sweatshirts and certain runners and stuff, that kind of support?
Yeah, no,
because
no. So obviously we are against slavery. We're against slavery. We are very anti-slavery. But what's your opinion? And do you go into this later on? Like, what's your opinion on slavery within the Imperium?
Obviously, look, from an ethical, moral stance, slavery is wrong. It shouldn't happen. And we'll remember, everybody, we're talking 40k context here, so it shouldn't happen. However, the Imperium is so vast that I don't think it is something you can stop. You need to police it, because the practitioners of slavery are people, right? So, and people left unchecked will take the easiest path to achieving what they want. And if that means they get somebody working for them for free, they're going to do that. So in these particular environments where the guilders are the ones who are swooping up these Detroiters of the community, the ones who need to be bought back or traded for or whatever, they're going to take advantage of that. Nobody's going to come hunting for this individual to say, hey, you're doing the wrong thing by them from an ethical and moral standpoint. The Holy God Emperor has, empowered me to kick you in the teeth. What's going to happen here is they're going to go, yeah, we'll run this person as a slave until we're told otherwise. And that otherwise needs to come with either a lot of money or a good reason, in the form that I'm going to have some Arbites or Arbos come down and curb stomp you, or some other reason that basically means that they become more fearful of the outcome than having a slave.
So
Does that answer your
it
question?
it does, but and obviously in the Necromunda context, we have the pit fighters here. We have free Ogren gangs, etc., and we
Yeah.
obviously have the specific slave guild. Like we understand all of that, but 40k in general, because doesn't matter. Obviously individual planets can be ruled however they want, as long as there is a single person at the end of the day who reports directly to the Imperium,
Yeah.
and as long as the planet itself is supplying its what's the word I'm looking for?
Tithe?
Supplying its tithe.
Yep.
At the end
Yeah,
of the day,
you
it
tick your
doesn't
boxes.
matter. But
Yeah.
when you have organisations like the Makeda Sanguis, the Slavers Guild on Necromunda, would so I'm trying to frame how I'm going to say this. Do you think slavery would just be one of those things that is accepted, where your average citizen looks at them and goes, "Well, better you than me"?
Uh, yes, I think. Again, I think in a perfect world scenario, where let's assume it's some agri world where all they grow is canola for the canola oil, right? And it's big open fields. You can't have hive cities because it destroys everything and so forth. There would be an acceptance of a certain level of humanity, but within these environments, there would be acceptance of a different level of humanity, and that is that yes, we're going to have a sanctioned format of slavery in the fact that there is a slavers guild. Like there is actually a guild dedicated to this. So the regular citizen watching somebody walk past is going to go, yeah, that's okay. There's a reason you're a slave. In the purest form of my humanity, you shouldn't be, but there is a reason you are.
You keep mentioning humanity here. Do you think your average person is going to look at another human, another baseline human, and see them as a slave and go, "I don't like this"? Or are
I
they going to
think
go, "I like this"? And then, no, before you give your answer, actually, no, give your answer here. If you, as a citizen of the Imperium, are on Canola Planet, and you see the group of slaves being led into the fields that day,
yeah.
and you look at them and you say, "I understand it at the level of my humanity. I'm looking at this and saying it's not right, but I'm cool with it because it's them and not me."
So I don't know. I don't think. I think if you're talking about Necromunda,
No, Planet Canola.
No, 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 no.
I'm talking
Yeah,
Planet Canola.
yeah. Planet Canola. I don't think so, because on Planet Canola, they're sitting there going, "We have a good life. We have a population that is able to maintain our tithe of canola oil."
Yep.
That's our tithe. Our tithe isn't bodies at the moment, so we don't need to send bodies away. And remember, this is all like hypothetical, obviously.
Yeah.
But that person would sit there and go, "Why are we using slaves? Why are these people slaves? Why do they have no opportunity?" You could understand an indentured workforce of criminals. You could say, okay, well, these ones were, they were trying to grow olives for olive oil instead. Oh,
Yep.
naughty no-nos. So
You've committed
they
an
get a
ultimate
slap on.
crime on Planet Canola,
Yeah.
so you are no longer recognised as an individual. You must work off your debt, and unfortunately, that puts you under shackles, and you are no longer a person. You are property.
Yeah. No, whoa. No, they belong now to the judiciary system within there. But that person
Until their debt
has an
is
opportunity.
paid. Sorry.
They have an end to that time frame, whereas the slave doesn't. And so on Planet Canola, they would see a slave and go, "No, unacceptable. We cannot have this."
Now, what if it's a mutant? Do they have that same opinion?
Define the mutant.
Anything that they would look at and see them as less than human. So maybe
Okay,
like
so are
so
we talking rattlings and ogrins?
no, those would be abhumans. I'm
Okay, yep.
talking recognized non-humans.
Well, you can see where my brain is straight away. I'm like, oh, that's a mutant.
Yeah, yeah. Well,
So
you
okay,
are the speciest one of us both.
yeah. So okay, let's talk beastmen. Yeah,
Yep.
an obvious
Perfect.
obvious thing.
Perfect.
They would look at that and they would see that being used as a slave.
Yep.
Yep. As a citizen of Planet Canola, I would be like, we shouldn't be using them as slaves. They they need to be.
That's you genuinely think Imperial citizens would look at beastmen being used as free labor and go, "This is wrong."
Oh, you didn't let me
Oh,
finish.
okay, sorry.
We shouldn't even be using them as slaves. They deserve a bolt to the back of the head.
Oh, shit.
No, I'm not. I'm being serious. This is my opinion. If
Okay.
you're on Planet Canola and everybody is human, and you see beastmen rock up, if you're still practicing as part of the Imperium, you go, that's heresy.
Okay, because
No.
beastmen have a kill order. Okay, but mutated humans, you've
Mutated
got
human, like an extra arm coming out the
extra
back or something.
you've got some
See you
scale.
later.
Okay,
See
okay,
you later.
cool.
Yeah. Yeah.
So okay, I don't remember what our original question was.
Our idea of what
Slavery within the Imperium.
Slavery.
Alright, cool.
Yeah. So if we wind it back to Necromunda, Necromunda's a completely different kettle of fish.
Necromunda, because of the feudal layers of society on the planet of Necromunda, slavery is not only, in my opinion, accepted. I think it is celebrated.
It's sanctioned. Celebrated, sanctioned. But also the ideas of humanity are completely different on Necromunda
Yes,
as well.
yes. Planet
It is
Canola is very different, and I want to use Planet Canola for all of our examples from now on. Anytime we need to think of just a random, like regular Imperial planet, it's Planet Canola.
Planet Canola.
All of the citizens sound like they're from, like Georgia, or
Yeah. Or the West Country of England. You know,
Oh,
I can't do that accent, but I love
neither
that
can
accent.
I. But yeah, anyone from that area. Wait, West? No, that's where. That's very close to the land that shall not be named.
Ireland.
No, isn't Wales on the west coast?
No, Wales
Yeah.
is south, isn't it?
No.
Oh, it is. Yeah. Oh, yes. Okay. Yeah. No, I'm happy with that.
So
Yeah, I thought you meant one. further
Planet
west, but
Canola is now Wales.
That's fine.
Yeah,
that's
done.
fine. You can hate on them. They will be the nemesis to the Necromunda 26th.
Done. Done. Take down those leak worshippers. Okay, cool. I agree with you entirely. I think slavery, will be very widely accepted on Necromunda. I think there will be very specific situations in the wider Imperium as to where slavery is either accepted or sort of not accepted. I think it would differ very much so planet to planet, also reason to reason. I, unlike you, think a lot of the Imperium would be absolutely fine with the enslavement of mutants, though. I think more extremists like yourself would look more towards no, they do not fit within the box, remove them. But I think your average Imperial citizen would think of the mindset of better them under the lash than me.
And look, I totally understand that. But if you grab an infantryman's primer, it shows you what a mutant looks like. And that mutation says you're on the path of corruption. So I agree with you because I think there would be a circumstance of needs must.
Yes.
Do you know what I mean?
Yes.
And okay, we know we're going to get hit by some, alien fleet or something like that. Yes. Round up all the mutants, pour them into the Factoria. Doesn't matter. They need to be producing weapons so that me and my buddies can go off and train to use those weapons.
Yeah.
Because we're in times of dire need, and those times of dire need would fluctuate from potential planetary invasion to the tithe is coming to that we're getting visited by an inquisitor, and so all these things that normally get left left to pass, we need more bodies to do.
Yeah.
So, as I said to you, like, you've got serious planetary invasion to as little as like an inquisitor's coming to look at you, look at your planet, which means that use the mutant, hide them in the Factoria, make sure they're not out on the streets, so that we don't eat a genobomb.
Perfect. Perfect.
All right, so
right.
I'll go on to
Jump on.
our
Just
next
to read
read.
two.
Because, read two, yeah. So, guys, amazingly, we had a derail.
Yeah.
God forbid.
I think we can all understand what we said. We're pro-slavery, and you don't believe that abhumans are still humans. Got it. Go.
Yeah, pretty much bang on. The guilders usually modify their new acquisitions for whatever task they have in mind for them. Arms are lopped off and replaced with rock drills or buzzsaws for those going into the mines. Pack slaves get hooks and claws instead of hands and feet for better grip, and pit fighters can end up like some nightmare mannequin of steel and flesh. The slaves are implanted with ownership studs to show that they are the legal property of a guilder and set to work for the rest of their lives. We've already talked about the overarching idea of slavery. Now we're starting to drill into that nitty gritty because so you've got three categories of slaves, and obviously the miners and the pack slaves, they make their half a extra bionic away from becoming servitors, basically. So these are more thinking service units, which is, I don't know, I feel like that's a more dangerous option to have. But I guess if they've got those ownership studs, there is some sort of method of control to these as well. So there would be something that they could just go deactivate or reactivate, or what's our
ownership studs are like the they're like those service studs in Marines. I picture them as basically just like brands that have been stapled into the foreheads and.
Oh no, what I'm saying is, like, if they're already doing that, they're already applying the ownership stud, there would be elements that they would put into them that would allow them to switch them off.
Oh, yes, I firmly believe
that. Our saddest story from Necromunda, what's his name? Johnny Razor.
Johnny Razor. Yes.
Yeah, there you go. We've mentioned him several times.
But you talk about how they're they're thinking servitors. Being a servitor, I think we all agree, is basically like the worst thing you can be in 40k. But it also sucks that these people they're basically thinking servitors, especially if if they have the control sort of functionality built into them. Like they are servitors that understand that they are property. They are servitors that can actually think and feel. And God damn, that sucks.
Yeah, especially like, the pack slaves that get hooks and claws instead of hands, and they probably get this ability to scale a building because it's quicker for them to transport goods and so forth, but they can't use that for their own freedom. They become these things that are basically, just it's a delivery tool, more so than anything else. And to me, it begins to become a terror weapon as well, because you can say to people, after death you might, or after you get lobotomized, you might become a servitor, or you might become a servo skull, or whatever the case might be. But the pack slaves, the mining slaves, they're much, much worse because what we're doing with them is we're saying you are there for the entirety of your horror.
Yes, and you're comprehending it.
Yeah, your comprehension of the horror, exactly. Those who would turn against us, those who would suggest that we are in some weakened state and we can't do what we need to do to enact either a vengeance or to power or control, whatever. Look at the, 1,000 slaves that we have. We will take your clan, we will take your gang, and we will do that to you unless you either move out of our way or agree to what we want to do.
Yeah.
So that's how I see them used as a terror weapon.
Yeah,
that
sucks.
The pit fighters, though, they're a little bit cooler.
They
So
well, they are, but they're also sadder.
yeah, they are sadder. They're also in the same light, but at least there is an end for them.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like there's actually, sorry, I'll correct that. There is a better chance of a more immediate end for them. You know what I mean? Whereas the one of the pack slaves hopes that it dies in transit, or you know, it, it, it almost it almost makes me believe that they don't have control over a lot of their limbs either, because don't you think some of these slaves would give up and just be like, oh mate, I'm just going to go jump off the nearest spire, sort of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, so again, there's these modicums of control that they use over these people, make them less and less human and more servitor. But anyway, back to the pit slaves, or the pit fighters. Sorry, the pit fighters at least have a chance of meeting an end in a very, well, in comparison to them, in comparison to the other slaves, a shorter turnaround.
Especially if you are on, what was it, Yesteryear, and you walk out and there's a large man named Angry Ron across from you.
Yeah. Let's be like, don't worry, guys. The actual real killer, his name is Angron. This is just Angry Ron. We don't even know who he is. Ah, typo. Ah, the classic Imperial typo. Uh-oh. So, yeah, but in Yesteryear as well. Like, I mean, that we should probably touch on that regarding to the pit fighters and pit slaves. So, you can see that it is a.
It's widespread.
Yeah, and it's a bit of a tradition within the Imperium. Do you know what I mean?
Oh,
Like it's almost like, yeah, this is what we do for entertainment in a way.
yeah, but there's heaps of instances of blood sports and sort of gladiatorial combat. Like, you know, it was in one of the Eisenhorn books. Pontius Glor. Pontius Glor, who was the bad guy in one of Dan Abnett's Eisenhorn series, he owned a pit slave. And basically, he was like this hedonistic type noble, Pontius was. And he would get bored, so he would go to these events and literally watch pit fighters. And he ended up, he bought a bunch of pit fighters, and this one guy who was basically like, okay, you're my master, and he gives him this this necklace that this particular feral world, all their warriors wore, and
Yeah.
it was tainted by chaos. So it actually turned Pontius Glor into a chaos worshipper. But
Oh right, wow.
but yeah, but then so
That's
many
cool.
of these novels, especially the inquisitorial type novels, or the novels sort of really based in humanity, they're always talking about pit fighters and gladiators and that sort of thing. Obviously,
Yeah.
then the Drukhari do their own thing, but yeah, humanity has this thing about blood combat, and this is before we even get to Necromunda, where we know
Yeah.
gladiatorial pits are a common thing.
Yeah, exactly, and they're widespread as well.
Yeah.
And it is something that, like, if we reflect on our own history with, you know, the Roman Empire and so forth, and their use of gladiatorial pits, it's that detachment from humanity, that those things that are inside that arena are not the same human that I am.
Correct.
Do you know what I mean? And so that's what we see in the form of these pit slaves and these pit fighters, is that they begin to get separated from the rest. And it's like, kind of similar to what you were saying, is that, man, thankfully that's not me out there. I'm happy to watch this, but
I can watch this and cheer and enjoy it.
Yeah.
And, you know, at the end of the day, I'm thinking better them than me.
yeah, exactly. And you lose that attachment with the fighter in the sense that you think that they're human, and they become just a fighter, just a method of entertainment for you. And that's something that the guilders really have to work on. And we see that is that they create these nightmare mannequins. So I know back in the day, the GW pit fighter gang, yes, you could definitely see they were human and so forth. But my idea of the kind of pit fighters that these guilders would be making would drift further and further away from humanity. You know what I mean? So there was a semblance of something that's bipedal and two arms and able to function and look like a human, but it begins to change after that point.
They
You know?
made them almost comical, and
Yeah.
they were. You say mannequin, I say they are almost caricatures of humans.
Yes.
Where
Yeah. Definitely.
they replace, and we'll talk about we'll talk about the weapons and that later on, but they lose an arm and they get a giant like industrial hammer, or their legs are they lose their legs at a match, and so you replace them with these monstrous bionics of pistons and greasy metals and
Yeah. Or you replace their legs with tracks.
Yeah.
Because you go, you know what, the arenas you're fighting on at the moment, it's better that you have tracks.
Yes.
Yeah, but I only broke my leg. Wow, that's
well,
good
and
enough
now
for
we're
me.
going to break them both clean off.
Yeah.
But it also assists by detaching them a little bit further from humanity. So the audience
yeah.
is looking at them, and maybe I'm really liking where you're going with this. Maybe it breeds acceptance. It breeds
Yeah,
acceptance
that's
because they're not
exactly where my
seeing
mind
these
is.
slaves as
Yeah.
humans. They're seeing them as things.
Yeah.
And it's ironic that we're talking about this part here because this next read of yours, universally, the technology which the guilders choose to use on their pit slaves is not of very high quality. It has little in common with the high-end bionics available to servants of the Imperium and the wealthy nobles living in the Spire. Pit slaves therefore resemble nightmarish agglomerations with wires, pistons, and even exhaust vents sticking out in all directions. Yeah, you somehow knew exactly what I was going to say before I said it. It is exactly it. They, if someone gets stabbed in the chest and it collapses a lung, well, cut the lung out and replace it with
Yeah, a rebreather unit
a
just
rebreather
rammed
unit.
straight into
Yeah.
just rammed straight into their chest. They need air, pump, like connect the rebreather up to the other lung. Why are we wasting our time trying to repair the lung?
Yeah.
Well, it's going to put them out of commission for 2 months while they need to heal. No, no, no. Like repairs are quicker. So replace the stuff that needs to heal with stuff that we can repair.
Yes.
So it takes on a similar sort of mindset to what the Iron Hands have of, the flesh is weak. That's why I say that. But rather than having this Astartes level technology, this, Mars-backed technology and material that they can use, they end up going, well, what's in that sump hole over there? Let's clear that out. Or my fridge stopped working, so let's rip that apart and make a new I don't know, kidney for this pit fighter.
A great thought here is, hey, go get me one of those mining servitors that stopped working because the biological component of it rotted. Why?
Yeah.
I'm gonna strip the armor off that thing and weld it onto this bloke because I'm pretty sure it's broke. That he's broken all of his ribs when he got hit by that pneumatic hammer. So that might make him last a little bit longer. They could be pulling the actual equipment from any source, couldn't they?
Yeah, definitely. That's why I say it. It's not a case of let us read the appropriate rites, let us wave the right incense over the process that we're doing. There's none of that going on. This is, almost orc level type of Mad Doc type shenanigans happening.
Yeah.
This is find something bolted on. Did it work? No, they died. Okay, well, you're in trouble because they died. Okay, so next time we don't do that. But we make these things functional until they're wiped out. The only place for these pit fighters to die is in the arena. So your technology still needs to be good enough to get them into the arena and fight adequately. But beyond that, the technology doesn't need to develop much further.
I don't
what I
care
mean?
that you've made a mistake. I care that you've cost me money.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
that's it. Because when you said it, they're basically working it like orcs.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is a
And
ridiculous mindset, but it's so accurate.
The idea would be that, you could potentially have a noble that goes, hang on, I love pit fighting. It is everything that is that is right in the Imperium. So I'm going to make a pit fighter that is a proper killer, not just ramshackle, bolted together, praying hope on hope that it can win its next fight, but an actual murderer. So I'm going to impart upon it the right technology, the highest level of materials, the right kind of engineers, mechanics,
Hell yes.
biologists.
Yes,
So
yes.
they create this killer pit fighter, but that is something that can only last for a certain period of time. You know what I mean? Because eventually that pit fighter will die.
But also,
You know,
we need to look at this from a Necromundan perspective. Your upper hive pit fights, absolutely, and I say upper hive, I mean, less less shit kicker, basically. Sort of higher than your average scummer.
Yep.
They might have, genetically altered, eugenically programmed warriors who are bred and trained, and they are, they have artificial muscle grafted to them, and they're works of art. They're almost transhumans.
Yes.
In that form.
Yep.
Those types were one thing, but did you ever watch the series Spartacus?
No.
Oh
No.
man! Firstly,
My brother watched it and was
Oh.
onto it. He was just like, "You have to watch
I've
this."
always said he was the smart one of your family.
Right.
But so
I've never said that about anybody in your family.
I have a lot of brothers. But there's a portion of the show where one of the characters goes to. There's the regular. It's obviously based around Spartacus and the Roman combat. And there's the true colosseums and the true arenas and that sort of thing where you're fighting what you could describe as actual combat, actual warriors. It's true gladiatorial events.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
then if you lose too much or you're not good enough, you basically go to this place called the pits, where it is like you're not fighting with swords, you're fighting with broken femurs, and it's
Oh, really?
it's like it's not man on man, it's man on four convicted criminals, or it's like just punching each other to death, and or you have to fight with one arm tied behind your back, etc., etc. And
Wow.
so what you're
Okay.
describing there, those upper hive ones where they're created warriors, is one thing, whereas if the further you go down, I'm picturing, that guy that has the chest plate made of the rusted fragment of metal that has been, riveted to his chest, and the chainsaw that he had replaced his left arm, every third or fourth tooth is just missing, and it gets a little bit more slapped together the further down you go.
Oh, righto. So, no, what I was talking about is that there would be nobles that would create killers, right?
Oh, absolutely.
So that they could dominate the arenas. But what you're saying is there's a tiered system of like, yes, you have the let's call it the elite fighting pits, right down to your backyard bash up sort of thing.
Yes.
Right. So, yeah, I guess if you're looking at it like that, then that means that the pit slaves, the pit fighters, would exist in every tier of Necromunda.
Absolutely. But just to the level of their technology, the refinement of them.
Okay, get your mind out of the pit though.
Yep.
That implies that there are people right at the bottom part of the Underhive, like let not say the very bottom, but let's say at this bottom tier of the pit fight, who are still able to have slave pit fighters.
Absolutely.
Yeah, those people, they're the worst. They are the worst of their kind because they are taking the people who have no chance and they're enslaving them.
Oh, they're
You know what I mean?
enslaving, in my mind, they are enslaving the drudges. They are enslaving rat skins. They are enslaving mutants. They're enslaving,
And that's where you see your mutants fighting and stuff like that. And what they do is they just chop the limbs off them. Like they go, okay, well...
Not even. throw one guy in there armed with a chain sword and a shield, and have him fight against half a dozen mutants who are unarmed.
Oh
So
wow,
it's
that's messed
proper.
up.
It's proper. Just you know, degenerate combat. But
It
then, don't
is.
get me
It is.
wrong, that final boss of that particular combat is going
Mm.
to be that mutant you're about to describe, where you've whacked the limbs off, and instead of the claws and that, he has two of those pack slave arms that just had the
Yeah.
claws, and he's
Yeah.
yeah,
Just thrashing at you. Yeah.
exactly,
Yeah. Right.
like
Yeah, that's really really dark. Like
yeah,
that's that. What we're talking about there is that we're going, oh yeah, pit fights, and we're sort of saying it's for the masses. But when you talk, like, if it exists in all levels, which it makes sense that it would, that level of entertainment, it's I'll relate it back to, like, your local soccer. Yeah, you go watch the seventh division team, your local team, go play on a Sunday, and it's just, you could get out there and do better, but you're not there to play. You're there to watch the entertainment.
are you
You know what I mean?
proposing we enslave local soccer teams and make them fight to the death for our entertainment?
Look, I've watched a couple of Sunday League games, and they are fighting to the death, but it's more against their capacity to run out of games. So they're just fighting for their lives more so than they are
Yeah.
fighting against each other. But yeah, if we could, we should.
Okay.
But look, I'll go on to our next read.
Yeah.
Because
We're
I could
talking
get
about
I know,
soccer.
mate, I could really get stuck into that a little bit more, but I just want to get our next read out of the way because we've got couple of tasty ones to come up to. A few pit slaves, the toughest and most determined ones, escape by stealth, accidents, or by killing their guards. Escaped pit slaves are wanted by the law in theory, and if they go strolling down the main street, they'll get caught. But the watchmen don't go out of their way looking for every slave that takes a hike, and most pit slaves wind up running with the gangs. So this is that light at the end of the tunnel that I'm talking about that you
Yeah.
don't get with the pack slaves, you don't get with the mining slaves. This is that sweet release of death, or actually sweet release of escape, So actually being able to get out there and potentially join a gang. And as that read indicates that, the local, they say watchmen, but we'll call them enforcers.
Yeah.
They're not looking for this person. They're like, they see hundreds of pit fighters pour through whichever particular gang leaders, what do they call them?
Settlements?
Stall. No, it's not. They had like there was a name for them back in the day.
Oh, like the flesh markets.
Yeah, it's like the flesh market, but not quite. It's more like I don't know, where they all come together. It's like their school, whatever. The
Oh,
case might be.
the ludus.
Yes, yeah, that's
Yes.
the one. Yeah. Okay, so they would see so many people pouring through, say, Balthasar von Zepp's Ludos, and they just go,
Who, sorry?
Balthasar von Zepp. Von...
Narco Lord Balthazar Van Zepp,
Yeah, okay.
leader
Narco
of the
Lord.
Free State of Zepp. I thought
Actually,
that's
would
what
he
you
have-
said.
Yeah, he wouldn't have pit fighters, so we'll call it Lord Romulus the Evil.
Yeah, cool.
Lord Romulus the Evil's
Love that guy.
Ludos. Surprisingly, a lot of people do. You wouldn't think from his name. So they're not going to be picking these people up because there's so many hundreds of gladiators pouring through there. We don't care. The ones who are on top of the shit heap, for use of a better term,
Yeah.
they're not fleeing. They're not escaping. They're holding their ground here, and they're saying, "I have a pretty decent life." Do you know what I mean? Unless some gang offers them something very, very special. But I have a gang idea.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, my gang idea is something that I wanted to talk about a little bit earlier, so I didn't want to leave it too late in the episode. It is tech hunters for the bits and bobs that they add to the pit fighters.
We have talked about this before. Not the pit fighters. It was tech hunters. The ones. Well, I think we're talking. It's one of those things we keep talking about a couple of times and not remembering. The tech hunters scavenging for servitors for the Oh, I want to
Oh,
say.
right.
Yeah.
Yes. This is scratching at my brain. I do remember this. Yes. Yeah. But no, these like, so I'm using the word tech in a very loose term here.
Yeah.
So these are basically Cawdor, who are just basically going out there and grabbing whatever they can. So they're going to look like tinkerers. You know, they just have all these tiny little bits of salvage that have attached to them. Tiny
Yes.
little, like little servo bits, little, like a mechanical hand, like a timepiece, all this. And it's just hanging off them. And so what they do is they're almost like the assistants to the doc, the one who actually puts everything in them.
What
And
was Frankenstein's?
that's who I was thinking of, actually.
Oh, was it Lurtz?
I
No,
don't
that
think it
was
was
that's the Urukai from Lord of the Rings.
it's, it's pretty far off, yeah.
Eagle. They're a,
Eagle.
they're a whole pack of eagles.
They're basically, that's what I have in my mind. They
I love
scuffle
it.
around. Yeah, and like the main Igor he's not even like the main assistant. He just happens to have that particular lead at that time. So your gang leader is a representation of not necessarily this enigmatic and wonderful charismatic character, but it is more just like whoever had the best idea at that time. Like, you know, I know that Manufactorum's just dumped, you know, half of their machinery because they're replacing it or they've lost all their workers. Let's go in there. And they're like, oh, Igor Prime, you're our new leader. And that Igor takes over for that period of time.
Yeah. I'm almost seeing the Eagle Prime here as you've seen Gangs of New York.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay,
Great movie. If you love Necromunda, watch Gangs of New
watch
York.
Gangs of New York. But the gang, the Dead Rabbits that
Yeah.
Leonardo DiCaprio's character joins, is led by a fella by the name of Shang, and it is played by Stephen Graham.
Oh, yeah.
And
Yep.
he's almost this like middleman between sort of the higher ups, Bill the Butcher and that sort of thing, where it's, well, hey, if someone needs this particular house broken into, all right, I'll get some of my boys to do that, or they've got their the dead rabbits that are out committing their crimes and that sort of thing, and they're obviously feeding everything up. Shang is almost this Igor Prime type character where
Yeah.
he says, well, hold on. Okay, so you what's that? You're after? You need some industrial drill arms. Listen, I know a guy who knows a guy who can get some hand. You tell you what, I'll get you 10 of them. You organise 50 creds per arm, 500 creds. Give me half up front. I'll get them for you. He goes to the guy and says, all right. He goes to the little Igors and says, go and steal those industrial arms there, and if you can't steal them, buy them and tell them we'll pay them 20 creds per arm. Yep, sweet.
Yeah,
And
right.
so he's sort of,
Yep.
it's the grift upon the grift upon the grift, and the
Yeah.
other sort of, the Igor Secundus around him are looking at him as like their leader because he's the one with the connection and he's the one with the brain. Am I sort of saying the right thing for your gang idea?
Exactly right.
Yeah, cool.
But at that time.
Yes.
So then
yes.
there's another Eagle Prime who comes up the next week, and he got knowledge that, you know, the doc needs X, Y, and Z components, and
Yeah.
he goes, oh well, actually I know this. You know, there's these enforcers down here who've just raided a Van Sar hold, and they've got all these random bits of tech. Now we need some funky stuff to make our guy breathe, so
Yep.
we're gonna go hit them. And it's like, well, can't we buy it from the enforcers? And he's got a particular grudge against the enforcers. It's like, no, we're going to actually raid them. We're going to, we're going to go kick in some teeth and so forth. And so he says,
Okay, yes.
yeah, he's like, well, do you know what? We're going to get, you bring yourself, you're an Igor, or, they would obviously all have individual names, but also grab 2 of your friends as well, because, there's going to be so much loot available. But in his mind, he's like, more the merrier, because we'll lose 3/4 of us. I don't care. We'll get the bits we need and boot off. You know what I mean?
Yes.
So there's this real disconnect with humanity, as would be expected from the industry that they're working in. you know. But the aesthetic of this crew is just like they almost look like a pile of rubbish brandishing a weapon. You know what I mean? So it's even
Yes.
more so than what the Cawdor are. They've just got tiny little bits and bobs hanging off them all. I can imagine using little brass etch bits and just like little cogs and everything. So they just always have this like they basically become like your dad's shed. Your dad's like, oh yeah, I think I've got that screw bit, and you can go in there and pull that out. But that's what each one of these members looks like. It's got, oh, you need one of them, boss. Oh yeah, I've got a 3-inch hydro nail. Here you go.
Yep.
You can have one of them.
A
It's like,
great source of bits for this crew is going to be the Caradron Overlords. I think they're called Endriggers. They've got the little drills and like spanners and that sort of stuff. I can imagine every single one of them would have these tools on them because, all right, you three, shoot at those enforcers. I want everything you got ploughing into them. You three, I need you to strip those 3 servitors down. You have 2 minutes. Get everything you can into the sacks.
yeah. Like
Yeah.
when you hear the other 3 clicking for ammo, your time's done.
Yeah.
Like we're done. We're like that's all of our ammo burnt. We've got to get the hell out of here.
Oh,
so
I love
reclaimed
that.
weapons. So they're more scavengers than they are a gang, but they need to fight as a gang to be able to do anything that is feasible within
Yep.
Necromunda. So
Yeah, I love
anyway,
that.
that's my gang idea because I had to get that out of my head. That one.
Okay. Well, pit slave gangs are obviously the N95 version of a gang of pit slaves. Pit slave gangs are gang fighters or underhivers who have strayed from the normal day-to-day life on Necromunda, or who have been captured and sold as slaves, or have had the enforcers deem them unfit for citizenry and locked them away from their crimes. Pausing this read there, we've now gone between the difference of watchmen and enforcers, where I think watchmen back in N95 were almost settlement specific law, almost like the deputized citizens from the old Wild West. Where the watchmen sort of
Yeah,
operated
right.
within their specific settlements versus the enforcers, who are obviously the gang of the Imperial House.
Yeah, right. Oh,
Yeah.
that's interesting. We should have touched on that in the Enforcers episode. But
I think we did.
did we?
I have no idea.
I can't remember. I don't.
Let's
think we
just
did.
say we did, and if anyone can prove otherwise, shut up.
Please. I was going to say, if you've got corrections for Samuel, please by all means email them in, carrier pigeon, Santa delivery, whatever the case you need to. If it's for me, just lose it.
Just lose it, yeah. But on top of this, the Adeptus Mechanicus uses servitors to do all their hard labour, and pit slaves are often seen as Necromunda's own version of fighting servitors. Guilders tend to sort their slaves by usefulness, and pit slaves are not only useful, but are very profitable. Those that show an aptitude for combat will be allowed to absolve themselves as pit fighters in the various legitimate and illegal fighting arenas throughout Necromunda. Guilders tend to wave false hopes of riches and freedom to those that bring them the most credits. Guilders notoriously augment those pit fighters that show the best fighting skills, or better yet, are the luckiest. So this goes back to what we were talking about before, where they are seeing the difference between legitimate and illegal pit fighting. And
Yeah, right.
it is, like you said before, almost said, hey, the light at the end of the tunnel here is you owe credits or you've broken the law and you can earn your freedom. I purchased your debt, so you belong to me until you pay back the 10,000 or the credits or whatever it is.
Yeah.
You know what's going to make those credits back faster? If you fight in my name. The more you win, the faster you pay it back. And this poor bastard goes, you know what? You're absolutely right. I'll do it. I'm an Orlock. I'm tough. And I've got my bandana, and I'm happy, and I'm iron within, dead and without. And they get in there and they win the fight, absolutely. And the Gilder wins 500 credits. And he goes, well, that's 500 credits off my debt. And he goes, well, actually, I had to pay 60 for the rogue doc to come and see you
Yeah.
afterwards because you got pretty badly hurt. So you've only made me 440. Plus, then I've had to feed you, which was another 80.
Call it 20.
Well,
80
let's,
credits.
let's
yeah.
call it 80 credits. So, I've lost again there. So technically, you've only made me 360. And then there was the gun that I gave you, and the knife, and then the ammunition, and all of a sudden they'd be seeing that winnings hasn't really gone as far as possible, and we had to train you. We had to get you some armor. I actually spent all in all 650 credits before this fight, so that 5,000 credits you owed me is actually now 5,150.
Yeah, like the booking to book you into the fight, and then it becomes all
transport
these.
you.
Yeah, it comes all these trumped up things like there's this little bit and this little bit and this little bit and this little bit, and then that slavery to freedom path becomes just slavery.
So basically, it's what Ticketek does when they put a service fee on for the fact that, or a ticketing fee, and you're just like, you haven't given me a ticket, I have to print this out.
Yeah.
So the Necromunda guilds are basically Ticketek.
Yeah, but somehow not as evil.
Not
So,
as evil, and they literally own people. I think the guilders do too. I'm not sure, but this is showing the difference in once again in the sort of the segments of society there, where
Yeah.
we're seeing that there is various legitimate fighting arenas, which is what we talked about before. those transhuman type. What's it called when there's a fight, but it's not really for something? It's like a when two soccer teams come against each other and they do
Like a friendly.
like a friendly. But there's a word for it?
Non-competitive.
Non-competitive, I guess. But it's like a
I don't
demonstration
know.
fight.
Oh, okay, yep.
Two guilders might come together and have their fancy transhumans fight each other, and then they go, all right, well, let's say Timmy the Gladiator won that fight. So what we're going to do, Timmy's now going to fight these three condemned criminals, and we're actually going to make it interesting. We're going to give each of them a knife or a sword or a hatchet. And Timmy, what you're going to use is this Xenos Death Arc, and you're going to fight these three condemned criminals.
Yeah.
And it's and the guilders all go, oh, this is a little bit cheeky, isn't it? Meanwhile, Timmy the Gladiator has just eviscerated this particular criminal from behind with his own femur. Because, Timmy the Gladiator has thousands of credits worth of artificial muscles and adrenal enhancers and bionic implants. But yeah, I think, and then you have we've talked about the illegal pit fighting and that sort of stuff so far. Like, I'm getting really excited about it, but because pit fighters are so cool, but then you sort of need to remember, it's just like, these are people that are owned for the sake of killing each other.
Exactly. Do you know there's a really modern, like in June 2, I think it is, the movie?
I haven't seen it.
Oh, dude, see it. June is just a wonderful bit of sci-fi. Like, for anybody who wants to judge it, go judge it. But I think it's just really well put together sci-fi. But there's a bit where they fight in this arena, and it's these soldiers that are forced to fight, and it sort of gives you an impression of very much of what you're saying there. You have these soldiers who are drugged up, and they can't fight as well as the main character who's killing them. And that's kind of what I can imagine would happen at these more prestigious pit fighting events, is that everything would already be stacked. There would be stories that need to be told. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I can imagine it's like in Gladiator.
Anyone who hasn't seen Gladiator needs to stop listening right now.
Yeah.
Reassess their lives, and then watch Gladiator. Gladiator, in my opinion, is one of the 5 best movies ever made in the history of mankind. I'm not even kidding. Gladiator is one of the best, in my
Yeah.
opinion, is one of the best movies of all time.
Yeah, I'm with you.
Wait a second, I've just figured out the word I was supposed to say. Exhibition. They would have an
Exhibition.
exhibition match
Yes,
between
right,
like their
yeah,
sort
yeah.
of their proper fighters before they brought in the pit scum.
Do you think those would end in like, you know, a lethal kill or something, or do you think
No,
those
I
are
think
just sort of like,
the exhibition matches would be between two guilders as a it would be a very the whole thumb up thumb down thing, and it'd be
oh, okay,
no
yeah,
thumb thumb up.
yeah,
It's a good exhibition. The agreement is one of us will win the exhibition, but
yeah,
neither of us will lose our fighter here. That
yeah,
being
yeah,
said, the winner is gets to sit off the side on the side and eat grapes and the like.
yeah,
The loser actually has to go through the ordeal of fighting, scum from below the wall. Yuck.
yeah, right,
Like,
yeah,
'cause,
okay. Yeah, yeah.
my
They're
fighter's so
sullying
good, he's
themselves.
eating grapes. Your fighter is so useless, she has to dirty her blades with the blood of, underwall scum.
Yeah,
Yuck. That's where you should be fighting, my friend. That sort of
yeah,
thing there.
yeah,
But
yeah. I get you. Yeah, that's cool with regard to the exhibition. I do like that way that they would do it, and it would almost be like a way of, maybe some of the higher ups resolving differences. Do you know what I
oh
mean?
yeah, a
So
contest
they
of
just,
champions almost.
yeah. You're just like, oh well, I'll use my pit fighter. Well, funny that you have a pit fighter because I also have a pit fighter, and his name is Bull Gorg. No, I'm joking. It is not him. I love Bull
Oh
Gorg, by
yeah.
the
Oh,
way, which we'll touch
we
on a
need to
little
talk
bit
about
later.
him later on.
Yeah. So I'll go into our next read because we're sort of now beginning to look at what the pit fighters are as a gang as well. So
Yeah.
the more renowned pit fighters show signs of metal plates that act like armor. A few are even augmented with extra arms to do more damage to their opponents. Almost all pit fighters are adorned with numerous fuel lines, linkage connectors, heavy machinery pieces, and various assortments of other deadly weapons. Once a pit fighter has won his freedom, he quickly learns that the only place that will accept him is the Underhive. No respectable house will take on a pit fighter, so they gravitate to the shadows, back alleys and dregs of the Underhive. Strong-willed individual pit fighters hire themselves out for individual battles, but on occasion, a charismatic fighter will band a ragtag group of fugitives together into a pit slave gang. Pit slave gangs survive in the wastes, raiding settlements and caravans. They take their vengeance on guilders as often as they can, but any gang that gets in their way is also at the risk of suffering serious casualties. So this is where we start to talk about that evolution of the light at the end of the tunnel here.
Yeah.
So it's not just about surviving the experience that you've gone through, or the sweet release of death. You've now escaped, or you've won your freedom somehow, but now you have a complete disconnect from the world that you once knew. So let's assume that this particular candidate was not from Necromunda and is a slave that has been brought in off-world.
That's something we haven't even talked about yet. Like,
Yeah, I know. That's kind of why I was touching on a little bit as well. But once you've won your freedom, let's say it's taken you 10 years and you're covered in all these different augmetics. There's fuel lines coming off you. There's, exposed hydraulic pistons and so forth coming out of you.
you are looking like the weird cyborg from Judge Dredd, from the Angel Gang.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, perfect. Yep. And they say, congratulations, Spamuel the Slaughterer. You have earned your freedom. Yeah, it is me.
Sounds like a great guy.
It does, doesn't he? He's not. So you've earned your freedom. And they go, you can go out into the hive and make a life for yourself. Here's a handful of coins and hopefully a lot of luck.
Yeah.
And you go out into the hive and there's nothing for you. There's no semblance of where you've come from. There's no connection because you've stayed in the Ludo or the lodgement, whatever the case might be, that you've been offered for the last 10 years.
Yep.
You understand that there's big houses here that run gangs on this planet, but they're not they're not the gangs that you grew up with when you were on, Bahorok, the planet Bahorok. That's a good name.
Oh, that is a really good name.
Yeah.
Did you
Came up with
just
that
come
one.
up with that?
Yeah. The old brain's working at maximum capacity.
The penicillin's kicking in.
Yeah, it really is. It really is. So these gangs, they look familiar and they sound familiar, but they're not like what you grew up as a kid. So you can't integrate with them. Plus, they don't want anything to do with you.
Well, you've
The
likely
local law.
interacted with certain members of house gangs during your career. Obviously, Goliaths and that sort of thing you'd be seeing coming in and out of the pits and that.
Yeah.
You're going to see different house gangs, whether they're supporting the fights, arguing against the fights, whatever. Absolutely, yeah.
But there's no sense of community for you here. There's no sense of, I guess, sameness or something, some sort of shared connection that you can have with these people. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? So you'll fight alongside them here and there, and they'll dump you. Like the first time they've had to do a runner, they're like, pit fighter, I don't even know what that is. Let's just go. And so you're stuck in the middle of this combat zone trying to get out of there as Goliaths are just running mad,
Yeah.
tearing through the streets, and you're just like, well, I've got to fight to survive. So then you finally hear about a pit slave gang. They're like, what is that? And then you have a brotherhood, something that understands the last decade of your life.
Yes.
They may not be from the same planet. They may not, have had the same experience as you, but they have a connection to that last decade of your life.
A
And
brotherhood of
suddenly-
pain, almost.
Exactly.
Well,
Exactly.
not even
that.
necessarily pain. A brotherhood of experience.
Yeah,
You've all gone through that same.
And they didn't fight at the same pits. You know what I mean? That's what I'm trying to get across. They've fought in all these different areas. They've just come together. They've gravitated to this one leader, and they're like, we can make something for ourselves here. We might only have a couple more decades left, but we're going to try and do something with what we have. And you turn out to be like rogue killers that just wipe out settlements and caravans, but you're doing something for yourselves.
Well, that kid should have looked at me that way.
Wow. Do you know what happens? Your caravan passes by, kid's like, hey, mum, what's that? That was a silly mistake.
What do you mean? What's that? I'm a person. Stab.
I'm a real... But yeah, with my 3 robotic heads, as I was like... It's like the designer was like, oh, this is such a great idea. I don't know why we haven't put two AI brains and mashed them into a human brain before. Why haven't we done this before? Ah, that's right, Dark Age of Technology.
Yeah, and they never did it again.
Yeah. So
I don't know
you can
why. He just
understand-
started screaming about someone called the Welch and talking about how he couldn't trust caryatids.
That would be the exact what Samuel from that... I've forgotten the planet.
Samuel
name
the
already.
Slaughterer from...
From Babakuchkarash. Baborikish. That's the genius of me.
Frisch
They
und
flash
Frisch.
and it goes away. Yeah, friction tricks.
Friction Fix.
Please, Lou.
Who I believe was described as South African Sean Connery.
Yeah.
Your way of pronouncing that name.
I did see that, and I was, you know what, I'm proud of that because I didn't know what I was doing. So, you can understand why these gangers, these slaves, would have some sort of connection that they're trying to attach themselves to.
Absolutely.
I wouldn't be surprised if they just indenture themselves back into service with the nobles, or the guilders, and so I will just be a hired killer for you now, because I don't know anything other than being able to take my directives or my guidance from you. I don't know any other rogue docs than the rogue docs that you've set me to, so I'm yours to use.
That's almost... It's quite sad because they've gotten their freedom, but they're tied to what they knew previously in a new and horrible way.
Yeah. In the sense, it actually reminds me of a scene from Shawshank Redemption where Morgan Freeman's character gets his freedom and he goes and works
in the grocery store,
in
and
the
he
grocery
asks
store.
permission to go to the bathroom.
Yeah, but he can't actually piss until he's told he's got permission. You know what I mean?
Because he says, go to the bathroom, boss.
Yeah. And the guy's like, you don't need to ask me, just go. Like, it's okay. But he says he can't squeeze out a drop without the permission to piss. Do you know what I
Yeah,
mean?
yeah.
And so that's where I could see these pit fighters. They said, there's your freedom. Go to the Underhive. Go get yourself a drink, chainsaw arms. That was a joke. We know you can't get a drink. So, go forth. And they would return back to whichever slaver, guilder, noble owned them and would say, I'm now in your service. Like,
Yeah.
you just pay me a retainer. I don't go back into the pits, but you need faces stomped in. You need people rolled over. You need things just killed for the sake of getting killed. You need me to kill pit fighters that are annoying you. I will go do that for you. You just pay me that retainer. That's all I need.
Yes.
Give me access to everything that I had before the Rogue Dock. So if my retainer is 1/5 of what anybody else would be getting, that's fine, because I don't have an attachment to a life on Necromunda, which is, as you say, it's sad, it's horrible, but it's unfortunately what's going to happen with these people that are just brutalized, because I can't see them winning their freedom in a very short period of time.
Oh, no.
It for me, it's going to take at least a decade, and in that decade, I think mentally and physically, there is very little left of that individual, that the first individual that they came upon.
No, it's definitely it's going to it's going to mess you up as a person. Like, obviously it is. You're a professional murderer, but it's going to mess you up, especially like you're saying. Once they get out of there, it's like, all right, cool. What do I do now? Well,
Yeah.
what's your work experience like? Imagine that. Imagine that resume. It's like, so I see you were serving on a Navy transport vessel. That's great. And then you have this 15-year gap. In fact, this page is literally just a bloody handprint. Tell me about that.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, so I killed hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of innocent people because a guy jammed a remote control in my brain and then replaced my arms with chainsaws. Like, well,
Right.
on the plus side, you are going to have a really good career here at the passport office. But instead, maybe go and do more of that. Yeah, no.
Yeah, it's a pretty limiting field. Like, I can almost see these things. It's a horrible way of saying. I can almost see these people being indentured into like a house crime sort of, shock assault unit.
Oh,
Do you know
yeah.
what I mean?
Oh,
Like,
yeah.
just going, okay, you know what? We're reactivating our Secundus campaign. We're going back and we're going to go kick down a few walls in Secundus. So I want some just bonko killers. You know what I mean? Remember the arcoflagellants?
Yeah, I was just about to say.
Yeah.
I'm picturing these as non ecclesiarchy arcoflagellants.
Yeah. So they're pit fighters who have been pushed to the absolute nth degree. Like
Yep.
their brain is basically custard right now, but they can still be pushed and directed into an area and being told that the guys firing the laser lights are your friends.
Yes.
Everybody else, kicky punchy, bitey hurdy. You know what I mean?
Your idea before of them almost becoming standover men, I'm picturing not necessarily gangs, but like criminal organizations hiring them as bodyguards, as
Yep.
that rattling black marketer hires a couple of former pit fighters and is just like, well, yeah, I get it. I'm 3 feet tall, but this bloke here literally has enormous metal claws for hands. So
Yeah,
you
yeah.
can deal with me or you can deal with him. Entirely up to you.
Exactly.
And we know where they're gonna head in that respect. But yeah, like the idea of them going back to that former life.
Yeah, well, see, I really, I can see them being used as a military asset. That's what
Oh,
I think is really cool. Like
are you
House Grant.
saying slap two of these on a base and use them as an Ogren or a Bulgrin in the Necromunda 26?
Oh, that would work.
Yeah.
That would work really well, actually. Yeah. Look, I'm sure by the next iteration of the Astra Militarum Codex, we're going to have full blown assault units anyway. So
I really
chainswords,
hope so.
supplies.
Oh, I hope so.
I
Just
would kill.
like
I
trench
would kill for
fighters.
that. Oh my god. Well, the combat engineers, you
The
had to take
con-
them as combat engineer. Yeah.
Oh, because they have the clubs in the last piece. Oh,
Yeah.
dude. Oh, dude. Done.
And the
Done.
mechanical bomb is just one of a pit fighter who just ended up as a head. Just attached to something. So, but I can see House Grime
His
using
name's
these.
Harry, but we call him Noggin. Sorry.
Yeah.
Continue.
I see House Grime using the pit fighters like surplus pit fighters as well, and potentially training their units against them and so forth. So they become again they become a resource, and I think that's
Yes.
the overarching theme. Like now that I'm thinking about the episode, is that the pit fighters, and very specifically the pit fighters, are a resource for Necromunda, in the sense that they are a form of entertainment. They are a utility to use against, things that are going against you. They can be just they can be liquidated really quickly as well. So like you can just
Yes.
pour in numbers of slaves, and as long as you've got that slavers guild on your side, then there's not really much going against you. So a noble house comes along and says we need bodies to train our men. So we don't want to go into a gang war with X, Y, and Z house, or House Delark, whatever, Goliath, whatever. But we need bodies to be able to fight and in more traditional type of battlefields. So they get the slaves and they dump them in an encampment, and they give them a sense of freedom, and then start supplying them with weapons, and then House Grime go and launch a military operation against them, all under the guise of that we're clearing them out. But they're
Yes.
using trained killers. And they don't always have to be pit fighters. You can just get slaves that you're dumping in there as well to train up their men.
Yes. Well,
It's warped and it's corrupt, but that's how I can imagine the pit fighters finding something outside of the arena as well. And when I say finding, it's not a positive thing they're finding.
no, I can imagine them as almost being shanghaied into being overseers for other slaves, because
Yeah, yep.
what's the worst type of slave is a slave that kills his own kind.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
these
yeah.
poor bastards are looking at these pit fighters and going, like, this was a slave that has spent the last 15 years killing other slaves. So
Yeah,
you better
yeah.
do what he says, because if you ignore this runty little prick here with the whip, and who yells at you with the clipboard, he tells the guy over there with chainsaw arms,
Yeah,
and then you have to deal with chainsaw arms.
yeah, exactly. And he doesn't have a clipboard.
He doesn't have a
So,
clipboard. He has chainsaw arms
yeah,
and
he
an
will resolve
IQ
this
of
a particular
7.
way.
Like,
Exactly.
he doesn't even ask questions. He just chainsaw arms. Well, let's talk a little bit more about the actual makeup of the pit slave gangs themselves. And the first one we're going to talk about here is probably one of the most important types there, being the pit slave chief. Now, the pit slave chief is the glue that holds the pit slave gang together. He is usually the one who first instigated the pit slaves to revolt against their masters or planned the breakout, and in some cases, he simply has the most experience for surviving the many battles that lay ahead. Pit slave chiefs have to work hard to keep their position amongst the desperate unfortunates that they lead. A favoured method of keeping order in a pit slave gang is to accumulate as many bionic implants and weapons upgrades as possible. A fully tricked out pit slave chief is a truly terrifying thing to behold, with their many arms bristling with guns and strange devices designed to chop an unsuspecting fighter in half. You said earlier about there's a guy with 3 arms and he has chainsaws and shotguns and that. I swear the old N95 Pit Slave Chief model actually had 3 arms.
Yeah, I'm actually looking at him now, and he does. He's got a shotgun, a big old bomby knocker, and a chainsaw type thingy me do that.
Yeah, perfect.
Yeah, so right, and it makes sense that they make themselves these horrible killing machines because you got to think about who you're dealing with. Like what you said earlier, hey, I've got a slave that can kill slaves.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I think more importantly is that these are the characters that escape. These are the ones, like, these aren't the ones winning their freedom, the pit slave chiefs.
Yeah.
These are the ones creating the revolts. These are the escapees. These are the ones who are getting out of there in, I guess, what you would refer to as illegal methods.
These are Spartacus.
Regarding these are your Spartacus, but I also don't see them as these noble characters. Like I see them as they're the rats that know how to get out of any situation. So they're unscrupulous. They're just, real hard as nails individuals. They're not looking for the grey in the situations. They're looking for the black and the white. That's the most important thing to them. So
The black
for
being
me,
get out of my way, and the white being too late, I murdered you.
yeah, pretty much. So the pit slave chief for me, their story is of escape. Do you know what I
Yeah.
mean? Whether that be via a revolt or via actually just like sneaking through a tunnel, a tunnel behind a poster in a prison cell sort of thing. But so
It's a poster of Belladonna to Escher.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly that. But that begs a question about like these escapees. We touched on it earlier about that there probably wouldn't be too much hate on them, but certainly certain individuals would draw it. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
And
a bloke
that's
with industrial equipment arms and then a third
Yeah.
robot arm toting a shotgun is likely going to draw it.
I know. They become these high valued targets that I guess even the enforcers and bounty hunters start to go, yeah, absolutely. We're going to take down this target. And that's a whole different kettle of fish as well. That's like some pretty crazy off the wall fights.
Yeah.
You could have, as a great campaign idea, you could have tracking down a pit slave chief as
Ooh.
and you would use all the rules that you could find to basically create a chief type model, and you would have at least one bounty hunter attached to your gang, and you go track them down and try and kill them, you make it as difficult as possible. Maybe the community's on side with the escapee and so forth. So
Yeah, I like that.
yeah, but the other thing that I was thinking about with the pit slaves chief, from what you mentioned, mate, they're almost ready to go off and become a man of iron at this. By the time that they're fully decked out and all these different bits, I reckon they're crossing somebody who's wearing what is the Archaeotech carapace?
That Archaeocarapace, yeah.
Yeah, Archaeocarapace, and just been like, you know what? That looks like a good fit. I look like I could lose my mind and disappear off into the Underhive. Like, sign me up. And just, do you know what I'm actually thinking here? You could almost make a spider-looking pit slave chief. It would be really cool.
Oh, the skittering spider legs.
No. 8 arms. So you've already got 4, so you just add 2 more. You know what I mean? So you've got the 2 legs, your 2 arms. You just add 2 more attachments, sort of thing. Like maybe one arm on each side holding a pistol, the one arm on each side holding some sort of close combat weapon.
Yeah.
A spider mantle for a head. Maybe a big arched back.
Did you ever watch the movie The Scorpion King? Or The Mummy 2 with the Scorpion
Right.
King?
I like that you attach the word movie to the movie, to the Scorpion King.
Experience, the Scorpion
experience.
King.
What a horrendous mess, but yes, go on.
I wouldn't say horrendous. I would picture this pit fighter with just the two arms,
Oh, righto.
but with imagine him cut. You know, he's cut off at the waist. They're like, we can't lose such a useful, murderer. So they effectively build him this arachnid lower half,
Yeah.
bond him into it, and basically slap him on the ass and say, "Go for it, chieftain."
And that's how he escapes.
Yeah, that's how he escapes. Like
Yeah.
he literally becomes this just monster. And
Yeah, right. Okay.
yeah, I'm picturing like that kind of spider.
That sound. Look, I like that, but I see like a big arched back, almost like not a big bulbous bottom. He's not going to look ridiculous.
Yeah.
But like four arms coming out of him, a really quite arachnid looking face. You know what I mean? Maybe with like fully augmented to have 8 eyes, that kind of deal. Anyway, that's the pit slave chief. We'll move on to the pit slave techno. And this is the DJ of the gang.
Pit slave. Sorry.
I am Spartacus.
No, I am Spartacus.
Yeah.
Boom.
As pretty standard for our episodes of recent, we have a little dance session. All right. The pit slave techno is charged with the upkeep and maintenance of the pit slaves. This responsibility can be as simple as oiling the implants and weapons to grafting new implants. Most pit slave technos were once Vansars who were captured or enslaved. Good. When a pit slave gang starts up, any wise pit slave chief sets out with a pit slave techno at his side. Let me say pit slave just one more time. Pit slave, pit slave,
Pit slave.
All right. So the techno is... The chief is the glue. The techno is actually the things that the glue is bound to.
Yeah, it's the thing
Without
keeping
that-
your entire gang together.
Yeah, they'll be wiped out otherwise. There'll be nothing left of them because maintenance... It's like what I mentioned very earlier on in the episode. Waiting for somebody to heal takes a long time. Waiting to repair shouldn't take that long. Do you know what I mean? Especially if it's you're putting it together with like the bucket of bolts you got in the back of the garage. But you still need that individual to be able to do those repair processes. You need that person to be able to hammer things in place and bolt things on and weld things into gear and oil things up. Just simply oil things up. Keep things greased.
They remind me... So, interesting enough, because I'm doing those Iron Warriors, and you mocked me for it, I think the Enforcers episode, I am actually rereading Storm of Iron. And the Iron Warriors have this position within the warbands called a Chiramek. And they are a mixture of tech marine and apothecary. So their main responsibility is like the maintenance of an implantation and that of bionics. And, you got a mutant hand, we cut it off, give you a robot hand. You lost a leg in battle, give you a bionic. But they also deal with the gene seed in that, and they actually take the bionics and that from dead Iron Warriors. Because just because your flesh is dead doesn't mean we can't reuse your bionics. But yeah, the technos...
Surely the Iron Hands would have like a monopoly over that as well. Like these...
I think they would...
Chiramek?
The Chirameks, yeah. They would definitely have like an Iron Hand version of it.
So yeah, I could definitely see somebody like the Iron Hands having an absolute desperate need for this. But with the Iron Warriors, and we're just going to touch on this because we'll go back to our Pit Slave Techno in a second.
To our Necromunda episode.
If you start to then have, a Tech Marine, an Apothecary, and then also somebody who has to deal with demon elements within machinery as well.
Yeah.
You have like this, wow, that's really cool. All right. Anyway, the Pit Slave Techno hopefully doesn't have to deal with all of that. All they've got to deal with is bio bits and techno bits.
Yeah.
So, if they're only dealing with the bio bits and techno bits, it still requires you to be quite a little bit of a smarty pants, doesn't it?
Yeah.
So I guess that's why they're saying their former Vance are and so forth. But there would be a lot of rogue docs out there who would have learnt their trade with the
Working
pit
in the
slate
arenas, working in the pits.
Yeah.
Maybe they started out as someone who was just like wrapping gauze and that sort of thing, and all of a sudden, next thing they're told, hold this guy down, we've got to take his leg. It's
Yeah.
there's lots of different ways to go about it. Or like you look at like World War One soldiers that were taught field medicine, battlefield amputations, that sort of stuff. That's exactly how I see a lot of these technos and that coming through. Yes, a lot of them are going to be Vansar because they're the best option for it, but at the same time, a lot of them are going to be people, or maybe even pit slaves, that learned their trade in the pits.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. Like, you kind of have like two aesthetics to run with this, and one is to have, a character in the gang who looks so different to everybody else, is almost like a doctor basically. And maybe it's I don't know what the gang composition was like for them, to what weapons they run and all that kind of gear, but they would maybe have like a really fancy bit of kit, a Medicaid, that kind of gear, all that type of stuff. Or you go what you're talking about there. You have the pit fighter option, who is somebody who has learnt their trade and learnt their craft by having to do it day to day.
Yeah.
And so they become this, I guess, not jack of all trades, but somebody who's sort of fallen into it a little bit.
Yes.
And it allows and then their aesthetic changes. They become more looking like a pit fighter. Maybe they are missing a limb, but rather than have it replaced with a huge sword or a massive hammer or anything like that, it's actually replaced with something more akin to like a bionic arm. Something that allows them to be a little bit more dexterous, something that allows them to be a little bit more delicate in their approach to the other gang members.
Exactly. But
Yeah,
I picture
right.
them, like you said, the Medicaid kit, maybe a backpack with oil cans and artificial plasma and a bone saw and a socket set. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like it's
yeah,
it's
yeah.
very it is like a mechanic / field medic.
Yes, field medic. That's exactly what it is. So they've got all these different attachments and what have you, but ideally their role is to keep the gang alive, basically.
Yes. Well, speaking of alive, let's talk about something that technically isn't alive, and that also made up a pretty decent part of the pit fighter gangs back in N95, and that is the humble servitor. Now, servitors are usually escaped Imperial servitors or Imperial Guard sentries. They are basically walking gun platforms. It's a very brief description there.
I was going to say, just for everybody who is listening, that is probably the shortest read we've ever had on this show. It is.
Now prepare for the biggest derail we have
Yeah.
ever done.
I was thinking about that. Yeah.
Like every
Righto.
action has an equal and opposite reaction. No, we are blowing this reaction completely out of the water. Servitors, and we've talked about them so many times in episodes, but we've never actually talked about them. And if you disagree with me, please keep it to yourself. No, if you disagree, tell me.
You'll be turned into a servitor if
Yeah.
you disagree. Yeah.
Servitors are literally the most nightmarish punishment that exists inside the Imperium, like in my opinion. And I will, in that list, include things like archoflagellants, where they're kept in sarcophagi, basically being pumped full of like images of bunnies being drowned, and like an ongoing rendition of Mariah Carey's "All I Want for Christmas Is You," and
That's to cheer them up, yeah?
no, that's to cheer them up
Yeah.
in comparison to what drowning bunnies to servitors is like. Oh, thank God, it's just fluffy again.
He deserves it. He
He deserves
absolutely.
it.
Him and his cousin Peter. Get him. Yeah.
But I love the fact that the pit slaves have literal servitors, these mindless automatons who are effectively tortured humans, possibly people they know previously from the pits, whose mental
yeah.
abilities have been destroyed. Maybe their brains have been smushed, but there's just enough left of them that they can be a cleaning servitor, or maybe they were in the past life an armorer.
Yeah.
And so they spend their days polishing guns or reteething chainswords. And in my mind, the pit fighters, as they've made their escape or as they've broken free, they've grabbed these servitors because in their minds, they are part of their family.
Oh, that's an interesting way to look at it. It's like this is just our slower, more dim-witted brother / cousin sort of
Yeah,
thing.
basically
Yeah,
how
right.
the UK looks at Wales, where they're like, we feel bad for them. We're gonna bring them with us, but no, okay, no one feels bad for the Welsh. I'm sorry,
Please,
but
please, all you Welsh dragons out there, summon all your power, spend whatever you got left in your hordes, and come to Australia and kick his head in. I do
yeah,
not agree with any of this
come at me,
anti-Welsh
you
talk.
leak-eating buggers.
I like Wrexham.
Is that like a Pixar movie
No,
or?
it's Welcome to Wrexham, the TV show about the football club in Wales.
Oh, is that the one where
Yeah, Ryan
the
Reynolds and
American guy goes to coach there?
no, that's a TV show. This is sorry, that's like not a sitcom. That's like I don't know. It's a TV show. This is like a pseudo documentary type thing where Ryan Reynolds and this McElhenney, something his name, from Always Sunny in
Oh,
California.
Rob
Rob
McElhenney?
McElhenney.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's it. They go and buy a Welsh football team and try and bring it up in the standings. Like basically rebuild the team and do something that I guess benefits the community. But I guess the initial goal was let's buy a sporting team and let's do something with all the money that we have. And it's actually a decent TV show. I expected something really corny and crap. But yeah, if you love football, it's
Yeah,
a
that
really good
and
watch.
I love football. Big fan of the Wrexham Rangers.
That's it, buddy. You
assuming.
nailed it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hey,
Anyway,
you put me on a football oval. I don't just play am I Wrexham.
yeah,
But no, I'm picturing these pit fighters taking the servitors with them because they feel some kind of kinship. And I also love the last part there. They are basically walking gun platforms
well,
because
but that's what they are in the game. Do you know what I
Yeah.
mean? But you're talking about like from a law point of view, what the servitor means to the pit fighters.
Yeah.
It's not just a like. And again, I've said this many times throughout different episodes. We can only really capture what's going on the tabletop to truly reflect some of the miniatures that we include in our gangs. So you're not going to have the ammo loader, the teeth cleaner, the oil
butt scratcher.
the butt scratcher servitor. You're going to have the weapon platform servitors, and that makes sense. But I'm totally on board with what you're saying about including servitors that would never normally get a miniature made for them.
because
You know what I mean?
when I think servitors, the majority of my mindset goes to the old. Do you remember the Space Marine Tech Marine?
Yeah.
He had 4 servitors. There were like 2 who were gun servitors. They had like heavy bolters or multi melters, but the other 2 they had like the loading arms, and they were
And
basically
had
like
like a
that loader
Jaws
suit
of
that-
Life one.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
those are the ones I think of because I picture them like they'd be everywhere in my mind. Because on a construction site, you don't want to have to say, all right, well, you two go pick up that load of of metal conduit. You have a servitor that goes and picks up the whole pallet at once and walks along, or they're lifting, maybe not a Necromunda because you leave all the shit jobs to the Goliath, but they'd be lifting like cauldrons of molten metals and
Yeah.
that sort of thing. But in this particular way, I picture them as hammering lengths of steel into cheap swords, or
just
cleaning
doing the donkey work
maintenance.
that the servitors
Yeah.
sorry, not the pit slaves can't do, because the pit fighters at this stage are missing certain limbs, right?
Yes,
So
yes.
they can't do a job that needs two hands, but a servitor doesn't even need two hands, it just needs one limb. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
But they're easily programmable where, that techno pulls out the data wafer and slides in a new one that basically says, you stand here and anyone who isn't recognized as by the images we upload into your consciousness, anyone who isn't one of them, you unload on them with this heavy bolter.
yeah.
And
So,
so they march them out onto a battlefield and sit them there and go, all right, Steve, you do your thing. And he's just like, yay.
yeah.
Which actually comes out as like, meh.
Roger,
Exactly.
Roger.
Roger,
What?
Roger.
What did you say? But it's goes horribly wrong when they load those same wafers into the digital wafers into the construction servitors, and they've got like heavy bolters. Like, move that pile of scrap steel. All I've got is a heavy bolter. How am I going to move it? Well, I'm going to use all of my servitor smarts here and shoot at it till it moves.
But this is the perfect opportunity to talk about, once again, servitors in the form of those thrall servitors from 30k.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
Honestly, man, just use it. Just use those. Just
Yeah.
use those and paint them up derelict and with torn clothing. Maybe mix in, some modern 40k accoutrements, like maybe some chains, an Orlok shoulder pad, or maybe it's a former Escher, so you've put the leopard print down the clothing, or the feathers like hammered into the back of the servitor's head.
And that particular kit, the models are a little bit more, I guess, finer, more lean looking. They're not like the chunky servitors that we're used to from the probably 2000s. So there's something that you can do to them that makes them go, hey, this actually looks like a former human, not like a former bodybuilder that was turned into a servitor. Do you know what I mean?
Yes.
And that to me is when you're talking about the worst job or worst outcome that you can have. When you can attach that more sort of like regular looking human physique to them, they suddenly become, I don't know, more real, more associable. You know what I mean? You look at it and you go, oh mate, I can actually see that happening to one of my gangers or another human or something along those lines. So I guess with the servitors within the pit slaves, you could almost look at them as exactly what you were saying before, former associates and so forth, but also people who have crossed the pit slaves. You know what I mean? Or crossed their bosses, and then they've gone.
Or the
we're
former
going to get
guilders.
Oh yeah, I didn't think of that. Oh, what I was thinking is like the pit slaves being used as a form of mercenary to then kill, capture, whatever, and they go, we're not going to turn you into a pit fighter. We're actually going to turn you into a servitor, because our pit slaves or our pit fighters have captured you in battle, and now it is up to us to do what we want with you. They turn them into a servitor, and you can imagine like somebody like the chief looking at that going, wow, I was part of that. I ruined that person. And though I have a detachment with humanity, I've also done something so perverse and so evil that it's even worse than the outcome that I'm suffering. You know what I mean? So you could, when you're starting to talk about putting gang colours and all that on them, you use the modern kit from, what we call it modern, but the 30k Mechanicum stuff. And that, I think, is more akin to, or you could even just use like regular ganger bodies and just really brutalise them up. The other thing as well,
servitor heads.
all you got to do is just put a dum-dum head on it and a weird-looking arm, and you've got some really cool looking servitors. That's the other thing as well with the servitors. I think you can put them into marketplaces and stuff like that. Like they would be common enough that you would see one or two around. Do you know what I mean? Like,
I
not
think
every
so.
single market stall is going to have a servitor, but definitely there would be some there. And they don't have to be fully functional. Like, they don't need 2 arms, 2 legs, or anything like that. The servitor could just be a torso attachment to some conveyor system. The Dune crawler. Not the Dune
Yes.
crawler, I can't think of the name of
The
it.
Scorpius Dune
Scorpius, that's
skimmer
it.
tank thing.
Yeah, it has a servitor that is
Yeah.
just purely there to maintain the gun. And that is
What
it.
would be what would be a great use for servitor in a marketplace?
Yeah.
You go to like arcades and you have the fortune teller in a box, and it's an animatronic thing there. But build one of them, and like you put your credit in, and it sort of moves, and one of its arms is actually torn off, and it's just there it goes. And you're just like, what? And this little card pops out.
Yeah,
It's
I was about to say,
You
it's
will
like
be shot by a corridor.
like an Emperor's Tarot card sort of drops out. Like,
Yes,
obviously
yes.
a cheap knockoff one, and it's just like, yeah, it just has like multiple symbols on there. So like a gun, a face, a bullet, or something like that, or a gas cloud, or something. You're like, okay, thank you very much.
Or-
I don't know why. Don't know why I come back here every week. None of these have ever come true, but
Or
you know
it pops out like just terrible like horoscope things. They're very similar to you ever hear the song "That's Your Horoscope for Today" by Weird Al Yankovic?
No, I haven't actually. No.
But like it pops out and you read it. It's like, work a little bit harder on improving your low self-esteem, you stupid freak. Oh, thank you.
It's like, get confident, stupid. Okay, thanks very much. Right, yeah. So the other thing I was going to mention before we get on to our final read for the gangs is the idea that maybe some of the mining slaves, maybe some of the pack slaves, are actually the servitors within these gangs. So they're not actually servitors per se, but they've been saved by these fleeing or escaping pit slaves.
Yeah.
So they've actually got them and they said, come with us. Yeah, you've got claws for arms, and you basically don't have any semblance of a normal human life left, but you can come be part of our gang and we can do something for you potentially. We don't know what it is quite yet, but it's better than staying here and basically being a claw-armed courier.
Yeah, but the techno gets in there, does a little bit of reprogramming, and they go from, okay, pick up box, carry box, to, focus on target, pull target apart,
Yeah.
remove target's arms, and they get in there, or they are being used maybe in the same manner, but by their new brothers and sisters and chieftain.
No,
But almost as like when they raid a settlement, these baggage servitors are carrying the loot back to the hideout, and in the pit fighters' minds, it's like they're helping their own people by doing it this way.
yeah, that's what I'm saying. And like the baggage servitors and all that kind of stuff, they're not servitors yet. Do you know what I mean? They're still functioning human brains. You know what I mean?
Oh,
They
sorry,
just
I said servitors. I meant the pit fighters and that, but they would have servitor assistants and like those loading servitors, and that would be helping them.
No, you misunderstand what I'm saying. So earlier in the episode, we're talking about the slaves who become like couriers.
The couriers and stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. So their brains aren't wiped yet. Do you know what I mean?
No, they're just people with like servitor bits.
Yeah, so that's what I'm saying. So in a gang like this, you don't have to run the servitor as a servitor.
I'm an idiot. Yes,
Yeah, you run them as one of these liberated slaves.
Of these liberated slaves. Oh, dude, that's awesome.
So, like, when they're manning the heavy bolter that you've now got on one of your servitors, it's not just bolted to them. Maybe it's attached to their arm and they're holding it with a hook arm across their body. You know what I mean? You lose a lot more of the robotic aspect of them, but there is a reason why they have a lower ballistic skill and all that. Is because these were never selected for combat roles because they were just regular people who happened to fall into the wrong hole or happened to owe somebody the wrong money. And so these non-combative minded individuals are used in these non-combative roles by that particular guilder or that noble. So when
Hell
they're
yes.
liberated, it makes sense that they're probably not as good at shooting, but mate, they're tough because of all the extra little bits and bobs they've got bolted in and out of them. So
Yep.
it's a way of having a personality that is not necessarily exactly the servitor. You just use the servitor rules to play this story out.
Yep. I love it.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yep.
cool.
Once I understood what you meant, I was just like, oh yeah. Now that you're saying it this way, it is so ridiculously obvious what you meant. Yes. No, I love it.
Right, so I'll get into our next read. So the next one is the most obvious one. It is the pit slaves. Pit slaves are the backbone of the pit slave gangs. Pit slaves are scarred half men with only bitter memories of their former lives. Outsiders often say that the more bionics a fighter has, the less of a brain they have. But armour is still armour. Which is, that sort of makes sense, especially in that
such an
environment.
orc mindset.
Yeah, it really is. Oh, gang idea. Oof.
Oh, did you ever read the Here We Go orc book from Rogue Trader where it listed out all the different orc bionics?
No.
I have it here somewhere. I bought it at like an op shop.
Yeah.
I remember walking in and seeing it. I'm like, oh, that looks cool. Oh, it's Warhammer, and I bought it. It cost me like $7 or something.
Yeah, yeah.
And it's Rogue Trader era orcs when they were all still super just loopy, crazy dumb.
Yeah, yeah.
And some of the upgrades you could buy were like spring legs, so they would jump.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Or like they would cut themselves off at the waist and attach themselves to like a motorized unicycle. Or
Yeah, yeah.
like rocket booster feet. And then it had all the different squigs and that sort of stuff. And it was just like some of the upgrades were just like, that is so dumb, but it is perfect. It is just
It's
perfect.
perfectly orc. Yeah, when I first started playing the game way back in like the 90s, and I remember reading through some orc upgrades. It was, and just even seeing them in the White Dwarfs, and there's like,
Yeah.
the spring mono wheel or the mono wheel, or there was, all the different manner of bionics that they could attach to themselves. And I was, impressionable young 14-year-old. I'm like, what are you doing that to yourself for? Because you'd read about it and exactly what you said. They make the choice to cut that bit off because they can replace it with something better. And that's sort of what the pit slaves / fighters sort of scream as well. It's like,
Yes.
I
Yes.
need a chainsaw here. I don't need, my arm firing a pistol. I need a chainsaw. Replace it with a chainsaw. We'll worry about, me being able to feed myself a lot later in life, because the most important thing I need to be able to do is win my fights. So you can imagine that mentality of, this is how I need to win my fights in the arena, that transplanting into the gang, where there's even a freer, broader range of what they need to do as a gang member. You know what I mean? So it's not like what I need to do to win in the arena, it's what I need to be able to do to win when we're raiding a settlement or fighting in the streets and so forth.
Yeah.
So yes, an additional gun that's attached to my shoulder that mounts over the top, of course. And it's, so they have this weapon that they deploy over their shoulder, and they don't care how it's attached or what it does, because it allows them to continue fighting, to live that better life
Yep.
than what they were living in the arena. You know what I mean? So it makes sense that they just begin to bolt on, and they speak to the techno, and they're like, please, whatever you can add. So don't make me a servitor, but certainly make me the most killy next to the chief. Make me something that is so dangerous and so brutal that I do not want to be engaged with in combat. And if that means I don't have hands, that's fine. We'll sort out hands at a later stage. We'll sort out nutrient
Servitor
packs.
can be my hands. Like,
Yeah,
it doesn't
exactly.
matter.
Yeah. So I think the mentality, especially of the fighters and the slaves who are pulled out of these or liberated from these pits, is more so that we follow our leader. That's our most important mantra of thought is to follow the chief. And the chief will do the thinking for me. The chief will do the guidance for me. But me, I need to be an effective, functional tool for the chief. And the best way for me to do that is more weapons, more armor panels, more efficient weaponry, more concealed weaponry in a way. I really see pit fighters and all manner of like members within this gang having digilasers, but like knockoff digilasers. You know what I mean? So
they're one shot, and it's just like when you use it, you need to make sure you use it when you really, really need it, because otherwise it just might explode and take your hand. So if you're going to use it, you need to make sure it's really essential.
Yeah, exactly. So, like, they've got things mounted to their bionics. I think we talked about it a while ago about having a bolter shell as a digilaser, like as a poor man's digilaser. It's just a
The
pin,
digibolter.
a digibolter, and just like fire one shot, tears off your hand, but you fire a bolt round. So, but that's why I see these happening as well. It could be like, even a harpoon. That like it's just a very simple spring-loaded thing, but when it fires, it completely destroys the hydraulics in the arm. So that fighter is no longer capable of fighting as effectively with their, buzzsaw arm or hammer arm or whatever the case might be. But they have this strength for -2 damage harpoon that fires to a maximum of like 4 inches or something like that, and is a bonus shot in close combat, or however you'd run a digilaser sort of thing. So I also see them really going to those ends of modification, because with the pit fighters and with the pit slaves, we see a lot of modification that is so obvious and glaring. It is a big turning buzzsaw wheel. We see a big axe. We see big this. We see a big attached shotgun. But I think they would go beyond that as well. They'd have concealed blades and knives and, like 2-shot pistols, 1-shot pistol, little stub gun mounted just in the hip that they smash their hand into the hip and it fires directly out of where their hip joint should be. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So,
But that just making them in that orc mindset, dead killy.
Dead killy, exactly.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly how you'd imagine them to be. So you like, and it's a great way of saying it. They're the orc mindset of like, do I have a spare spot? Let's attach some spiky shenanigans to it, or some shooty shenanigans to it.
Okay. Yeah. So basically, pit fighters are human orcs. I think we can just agree.
Yeah, call them digger knobs.
Digger knobs. All right, done. So let's talk about, and you've sort of jumped into it there, the next part you've got down here. Let's talk about some of those digger knob weapons. You've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Let's have a look at these. I'm going to jump on here to... I have to be the one to talk about this because I think I've said this word more than anything this episode. Chainsaws. So, chainsaws are a popular choice of weaponry for pit slaves. The most well-known advocate and wielder of the chainsaw is the slave leader, Bull Gorg. A chainsaw is usually mounted on the stump of a wrist or in place of a forearm, but the most infamous pit slave named Harkin Vor actually had a chainsaw which replaced his lower jaw. Firstly, not a bloke you want to kiss.
No.
Now, because a chainsaw is long, jagged, edged, and comparatively easy to wield, the pit slave may use it to parry an opponent in hand-to-hand combat. Holy hell! How do you replace your jaw with a chainsaw? Do you just have like the mouth hole, and then it's a jaw that sort of still moves, but it's a chainsaw?
Do you know Tiberius, the space shark guy?
The Red Wake?
The Red Wake, he's got like a fist that has the chainsaw in like the palm sort of thing.
Yes, he does.
Yeah, that's how I imagine this would be. So it's like a whole... Imagine replacing the whole bottom jaw, but where your teeth, where your, I guess, between your eyes, that sort of range, would be multiple chainsaw blades. So when he gives you a little nibble, It's like
Yeah.
told
Because
ya.
I know like Goliaths have like the chainsaw,
Yeah,
like mohawks. Like there's that what's his name? Attalus the Axe.
yeah,
He's
yep,
the House Goliath gladiator, the pit fighter.
yep,
He
yep.
has he replaced his arm with that huge chainsaw, but he's got like the metal mask, and he's got the like the chainsaw mohawk. I'm almost picturing the jaw, what you said, but instead of the mohawk, it basically runs down the front of his face, and
Oh,
maybe the
right.
motor is where his mouth would be.
Yeah, right. So when he headbutts you,
And he headbutts you. It's
yeah.
literally down the center of his face, and he drives it straight through. Like, oh,
This honestly, this continuously opens up the question that arises for me in 40K of how do some of these people eat? You know, like,
like blenders. Like I can tell you from personal experience, you can blend a salad, and you can blend chicken and rice into a drink.
that's disgusting.
It it is, but I was time poor, and it worked.
How time poor.
I wanted to play video games.
Oh, righto. Yeah, no, do you
Yeah,
know what? I'm the fool for questioning that.
yeah.
I've been there myself, and I decided that liquid was the best form of food.
No,
So yes, I agree with you.
someone at my gym said, because I hate eating salad because I'm a 38-year-old child, and so when I'd leave the gym, I'd go home and I'd have to eat all this salad as part of my diet. So I would put it in a blender and throw in some like berries and some Greek yogurt and blend it, and I would drink my salad after eating the rest of my food. And what was I playing at the time? I actually think it was Star Wars: Knights of the Old Republic or Fallout. No,
Righto.
it was Fallout 76. Sorry, it was
I was
Fallout
going to say it's
76.
probably Fallout, knowing you. But go on.
And yeah, I blended chicken and rice in a salad,
Yeah.
and it. I've made some terrible decisions in my time, and it was one of them.
Yeah, it
Like
sounds
top
gross,
three.
man.
Yeah, but that's how I picture they would have like a blending servitor who would
Yeah.
blend all their food into like a smoothie,
Yeah.
and they would drink it that way.
Because you see some of these, like, you know, psychers and whatever, and they've got plates over their mouths and all that kind of stuff. And you're like, do you know the kind of effort it would take to remove that plate? Then you have to eat. Then you got to put the plate back and all that kind of stuff. Doesn't make sense. But, you know, yeah, if they've got a tube or something that they just plug into them and just go, here's your stream of nutrients and sustenance. Enjoy that. That was a cordon bleu.
Yeah.
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 But it just tasted like grey. It all tastes like grey.
It
We'll
all
just call
tastes like
that.
grey.
Yeah. Right, cool. So yeah, this particular pit fighter with the chainsaw mouth, or chainsaw you're also almost saying chainsaw face is
I want to
your
say
descri-
chainsaw face.
Yeah, what did you say? He had a chainsaw which replaced his lower jaw.
Yeah, Harkin Vor with a chainsaw jaw.
They did that deliberately. Harken Vor, the chainsaw jaw.
Guaranteed they did that on purpose.
To the funnier version for me is it's just the outside of his jaw. So it's just like one circular chainsaw.
Oh,
that just
honestly, yeah, we didn't
rounds
even
from left to
think
right.
of that.
Yeah. And so, like, you know, he can't, like, he can't lean his chin on his hand because he's just like, oh, that's it. I've turned that to mush. That was a bit of a silly duffer thing to do. But fantastic at woodworking because he just holds stuff up to his face and just...
Oh, heck yes.
All right, we'll go into one of our other weapons. This is one of my favourite weapons, actually, just because its aesthetic is 80s and 90s sci-fi dystopian future silliness. Because, yes, it makes sense, and yes, it would work, but it just doesn't look right. And that is the shears. Huge shears.
They're so dumb. I love them.
Even when they first came out in the 90s. Yeah, they're just a ridiculous looking weapon. And well, look, I'll get into the read of them. It's small. Huge shears are fitted to pit slaves for harvesting fungus groves, scrap metal, and other similar things. The sharp blades of the shears are quite capable of snipping off bits of human as well. So again, as I said, totally makes sense. Big choppy, yep, cool. But whenever I saw them on a miniature, all I could think of was a Mad Doc from the Orcs. And
Yes.
I'm like,
Yes.
somebody has just gone, yep, gardening tool, bang it on a pit fighter, totally makes sense. They will make the most out of this.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Like, it makes perfect sense where they literally have these slaves where they're cutting up metal, they're harvesting fungus and that sort of thing. It's just like, man, look how easily that those shears snip through that old steel girder. You're like, oh, yeah, tell tell the slaves over there if they don't hurry up and up their quotas, we'll get Pete to give them the old snip, and that one guild just goes, wait a second.
Cash money idea.
Money, 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 money.
Why didn't I think of this before? I just like cuts up a slave just to prove the point. Just like,
Yeah.
obviously the girder is not as tough as the slave. Why didn't I put two and two together before? That's why I work on this level of the Underhive.
Yeah, and all the guilds around are just like, you're a genius.
Yeah.
You're a genius.
And that's how you become a new pit boss or a new narco lord. It just takes that one idea, that one spark of imagination. So, yeah, again, it is a cool... No, it's not cool.
It's so dumb.
It's
It
a
is so
dumb-looking...
dumb.
But it like, dystopian future, like the really weird... Those people who take 40k into that really weird, dark... what is it called? The Blanchitsu? I can't pronounce it.
Blanchitsu?
Blanchitsu. You see shears on a miniature done up like that, and you're like, that is on the money. But you see that on a beautifully painted, standard looking Necromunda miniature, you just go, that looks a little bit cocoa bananas, to be honest. So, but anyway, I love it. Don't get me wrong. I love it. I think it looks ridiculous. But at the same time, it also fits the bill very nicely.
Yeah. Well, let's do one more each. So I am going to I gotta do it. I gotta do it. It's another classic, like 50s spy movie bad guy weapon.
Yeah.
The buzzsaw.
Yeah. Yep.
Buzzsaws are fitted to scrap slaves, and particularly unsubtle pit fighters. A whirling disc of toothed steel, the buzzsaw can part steel or flesh just as easily with a single scything swing. Every, in my mind, pulp, spy movie has a bad guy who has an arm that was replaced by a buzzsaw, or a robot with a buzzsaw.
Yeah,
or
yeah.
the spy's tied down and the buzzsaw's slowly lowering. Buzzsaws are so dumb. I use a grinder most days at work, and I'm just like, this is so much better than a saw. Because a saw, you gotta wait for it to spin up. You got that stupid safety guard.
Yeah.
Honestly, if you want to have fun, put a saw blade onto a grinder and then go for it.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Do not do that. No one do that. No one do that,
no.
because I'm pretty sure I can be held legally responsible for that.
Actually,
But
you probably could. Yeah. No,
honestly,
don't do
I
that,
could.
because that leads to choppy ow ow.
Choppy Choppy Ow Ow is the new name for the buzzsaw. I love the buzzsaw because it is ridiculously large and oversized, and you can imagine them genuinely being like lumber servitors, or they're cutting out steel for adding new sections to the hive and that sort of thing. And once again, those same guilders from before, they're like, he cut that pylon really easily.
Yeah.
Hey, number 238, come here. And he comes over, he goes, go cut that guy's arm off. Why, boss? Because I said so.
Excuse me.
All right,
That's
just
it.
kills this unsuspecting slave, and they're just like, oh my god, go get the guy with the shears.
Yeah. I've got a team up here. And the thing about it, when they're coming up with that creation, they get such a buzz out of it.
So why don't you do your next one? Because
Whoa.
Honestly, I have a gang idea. It's not a real gang idea, but it's a gang idea I have to do.
Is
'Cause
it?
you have to do it as well. What?
Okay, I'm going to say what I think it is.
Okay.
It's a gang of pit fighters, all equipped with buzzsaws, all painted as bumblebees.
No, not even close. But that
Right.
is genius.
Okay.
The Buzz Boys, we would call them. No, I will do a servitor gang, and you do a servitor gang. I'll paint them up like Milwaukee, and you paint yours up like Nikita, and we do the power tool wars.
That is actually genius. So, like, looking at all the stuff here, yeah, you could definitely do it. So you do a buzzsaw, chainsaw is obvious, shears. I'll go into our next read, which is the rock
like
drill.
all of it. Yes.
I'm just trying to think what reciprocal saws,
Yep. Nail guns.
grinders, nail guns. Oh, the most useless too would be like ones with leaf blowers on them. It's like
Leaf blower and vacuum.
yeah,
They're just against each other.
Yeah.
It's like, the vacuum's just sucking on the leaf blower, and everyone's just like, I don't know who's going to win here. Whose battery is going to run out first?
yeah. Oh, they'd all have battery packs.
They'd all have battery
the
packs.
slide-in battery packs that you just slide into the back of them.
Yeah.
That's
and
actually
you'd have
cool.
one techno in each gang, and he would tell everyone that he's in the trades, but he's actually just like a site foreman.
Yeah. Oh no, like a sales rep for those.
He's never
tools.
been on the tools.
Yeah. But he's like a
Oh
sales
my
rep.
god, they're sales reps.
Yeah. So he's a Milwaukee sales rep. So he's got the hat, he's got all the gear, he's got all the like the cases that they bring around. They go, oh, have a look at this, and then he's got like a little wagon of like. Do you know how they bring around like test bits? Like, see this bit of
my
ceramic. You can just punch through this bit of ceramic with this 4-inch bit. It's amazing, mate. Just look at that. And you're just like,
And they're literally
care.
trying to sell their brand of servitors to
Yes.
the guilders.
Yes.
Oh.
100%. So yeah, they're just sales reps with a bunch of servitors, and when they cross paths, they're just like, this is a Milwaukee branded town, don't you? And then
This is Makita Hive coming at you live.
and the Ryobi one rocks up, and everybody's just like, just don't bother, mate.
Just go away.
Go away.
Just
Yeah.
leave. He's like, oh hey guys, anyone want to be like in a feud? It's like, shut up, Ryobi.
Oh, that counts. I'm going to tell everybody I was in a feud with Milwaukee. I got him, guys.
I cornered the Makita and the Milwaukee guys in a dome. Let's just say I was the only one who walked away. And he's telling it, and everyone's just like, wow.
Yeah.
And there's just like, there's 3 actual guys standing there going, this guy's an idiot.
Yeah.
Shout out to
don't
everyone
get-
who uses Milwaukee tools, by the way.
Yeah, they're fantastic. But
Milwaukeeans.
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 Oh, yeah. Oh, that's good. But I did mention before that I have a rock drill mining attachment that I wanted to talk about.
Yes.
Rock drill mining slaves are commonly modified to carry massive drills for boring through slag, minerals, and rock. The rock drill makes a fearsome weapon in hand-to-hand combat when used by a pit slave. So this is drilling like in the most insane sense. This is so with my job where we do have a drill rig, which we're punching a drill bit or I guess rock drill into the ground. We have a cage that we close so that nobody can get near it. This is the opposite of what they're trying to do. There's no cage. It's like I've got the spinny, crunchy death, and I'm sticking it in the general vicinity of where this person is. And
Your
hopefully-
internal organs are the cage, my friend.
Exactly. There you go. Yeah. So they're just hoping somebody falls on it or they get punched through with it. So obviously the ones in 40k are nice, like pointed, angry looking things. I can also see them using something like, what is it? In drilling, we call it a rock drill, basically.
Yeah.
Not the drill that you're going to see on the pit fighters, but it's like a multi-faced rock crusher. And it is, I don't think it would be very good at actually hurting somebody, but it looks so damned intimidating. It's got like 3 separate spinning elements, and if you were to get any part of you near them while it's spinning at maximum velocity, you would be turned into a sorry mess very, very quickly.
Yeah. I mean, I'm trying to think, like, I use regular drill bits for, like, like wood and steel and that sort of stuff. And then I use like hammer drill bits, which are a drill bit with like multi-directional flat pieces for smashing through brick and rock and concrete and that sort of stuff. The ones you use, are they kind of like? Do you remember in Total Recall, the first one, where the cab driver is driving that like drilling machine through the walls, and it's like it's got the single drill head that spins, and then there's almost smaller drill heads on it moving in different like either clockwise or counterclockwise.
We do have them. Yes, yeah. That's how you like the main bit smashes and everything else sort of destroys the smaller bit so that it could be basically moved on.
Yeah.
So you want to be able to clear those cuttings away. But that's what I'm saying. Like it would look really, really cool on a Necromunda miniature, but it wouldn't make sense because you don't need to clear that stuff away because as you hit your target, you're going turny, turny, crunch, crunch, death, death, death. That stuff's flying out everywhere.
Yes,
Do you know what I mean? So you kind of want like the kind of drill that they could use would you could almost have like a trident looking thing with lots of spokes coming off it, which just spins. And it's almost like a blender. You know what I mean? So the idea is you come up and you just ram that into your opponent and you've got these hardened steel or hardened tungsten or whatever metal they have so hard that it's just going to start chewing through the armor as well.
Yeah.
The Imperial Termite or like the
Hades breaching drill.
Hades breaching drill? I don't actually know.
You know the one the Krieg use?
Oh, yeah, I know what you're talking about here. Yeah, see, the way the drill bits move on that's designed to clear stuff away, make a hole, and then obviously I think they've got melter guns in the middle of it or something like that.
I'm pretty sure they have melters in there.
So that blasts a hole. Whereas I think what you'd be seeing on a pit slave in Necromunda is actually just one of those rotating elements miniaturized down to like a man size. Yeah. So does that make sense? Yeah. So it's smaller and it doesn't matter about clearing away stuff. It's just designed to break and punch through whichever section of the opponent it's hitting at that time. So yeah, as I said, the Imperial Termite is probably a really good example of it. It has this sharpened point on it that would just start crunching. That would just start crunching and smashing through. And you just try and churn up that one particular area. Either way, completely horrible way to go.
It's not going to be fun at all.
Yeah. Like, I mean, there's some bad ways to go. Getting part of you drilled by a barely human pit fighter is definitely on the list of very high up on the list of things that you don't want to do on a nice Sunday afternoon. Pause there.
But you...
Did you... Oh, you got more? Go.
Yeah, I've got one thing left.
Yep.
But you look at there's that classic book, I believe from the Outlanders book. The pit slave, he's got the long pointed drill on his arm. He's got a big stub gun.
That's exactly what I'm thinking of. Yeah,
but the only other rock drill I can think of is from the Gene Stealer cult set, the rock drill, and it's literally like the front of a Hades breaching drill. And
I haven't seen this actually.
Yeah,
yes, okay.
The front of a Hades breaching drill, but they've got the big unit, then they'd be jamming it in there, and it would be pulling the rock away from the hole.
So that's exactly what I was talking about, the drill bits that we use at work. That's exactly how it looks. It's like a rock crusher bit. It goes down, it crushes everything up and makes it movable through, like, basically you use a fluid to shift
like
it
on the Space Marine Centurions, they've got those big breaching drills.
There we go. Yeah, perfect.
Yep.
So I could see a pit fighter definitely... Yeah, see that kind of drill there? It would hit the area, and it's not like drilling in like you do with a hand drill. It's sort of just crushing it all up, which, again, mate, the mental imagery of that is... If
it does it to rock, nice. It's going to do it to some, malnourished scum piece of junk pretty easy too.
Yeah, if you can do it to Dwayne Johnson, you can mess up anybody in Necromunda.
He's huge.
Yeah. Because the rock.
Oh no, we got it, buddy.
Cool.
And there's literally a line under this section here that says Sam isn't allowed to talk anymore. Um, and then it says Nathan only read.
Okay, so a little bit of background to this. This is the first character I ever saw that I went, what? This makes no sense to me. But it breathed pure 40k. It was the archaic nonsense that did not make sense. It was extreme beyond all measures, and it engendered me to think about questions like, how does this person function on a day to day? How do they eat? How do they do all these things? All these questions that made me delve further into the world of 40k outside of the battlefield. And one of the reasons that Necromunda was able to catch me so much was because of this character I'm about to read about. And that then takes you into 40k, not as how many troops am I deploying to the battlefield, but where do those power packs come from? Where do those individuals come from? Why does this particular regiment not have enough Lehman Russes? Why is this particular city being attacked by Xenos? You know what I mean? Like you delve into the history, and it all stemmed. This is my own personal history. All stemmed from Bull Gorg, seeing a piece of artwork of him and going, "You don't make sense." You know, up until that point, I'd seen massive armies and all the rest of it, but when I saw him, I was like, "That is bonkers," and that took me down a pathway that I'm so happy I never looked back from.
That was beautiful, dude.
Well, that's exactly, it was the truth.
Yeah.
The Bull Gorg seriously did that to me. I was like, I would have been like mid-teens, and I'm like, this makes no sense. And then I just followed that rabbit hole, you know, and it was amazing. It was just the best.
Yeah.
Bull Gorg was a famous pit fighter who led the greatest slave revolt the Underhive has ever seen. At the head of an army of ex-slaves, he captured the settlement of Dead End Pass and charged tolls on the traffic that passed through the town. Bull Gorg also outlawed slavery in the settlement and freed the prisoners in any slave trains that passed through. This angered the powerful guilders that ran the slave trains, and they sent an army of cutthroats and renegades to attack the town. A traitor opened the settlement's gates, and the guilders' army sacked Dead Ends Pass, leaving the streets running red with blood. Bull Gorg was captured and executed as a common criminal, his head stuck upon a spike and displayed as a warning against any that might challenge the guilders' power. And yet, rumours persist that Bull Gorg's execution was staged by the guilders, and that Bull himself escaped and stalks the Underhive to this day. Such stories are told only in whispers, for those that repeat them too loudly quickly draw the attention of the guilders and either disappear or suffer a fatal accident. Still, the stories continue, and now most Underhivers believe that Bull Gorg is not only still alive, but that one day he will return to Dead End Pass at the head of another army. So that history, I remember reading that a while ago now, but when I first learnt about Bull Gorg, it was a picture, you know what I mean? And that picture took me down that pathway, and then somebody made a miniature of it, and the miniature was so dark, so gothic, that it took me down a different pathway. The story of Bull Gorg, though, as this pit fighting legend, you know, just, and beyond that, a legend of a people, you know, a legend of these slaves, somebody who was able to turn their world around and the world of others around. And you think, wow, that's amazing. And then you look at it in the context of a place like Necromunda, and you look, that's barely a blimp. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like that's a nothing upon a nothing. That's what's happened there. But for the context of those slaves, for the ones that are freed off the trains, he becomes the greatest name, the most notable thing that has ever happened in their life. And that's how you can see that, I guess, history. You can see that legend that doesn't die. It continues on. Bull Gorg still exists. There's a Bull Gorg in everybody, you know. And it's almost,
It's
a
very
cheap
Spartacus.
It is. It's a cheap Spartacus, but it's done in a 40k way as well, in the sense that the evil guilders. It's not the Imperium here. It's the evil guilders who are doing this, and there will be a Bulgorg. Whether and it could be 100 years, 200 years, but people will still believe in that name and that idea. It's almost like, for anybody who knows this history better than me, please excuse what I'm about to do. I think it's the Mongolians, they still worship Genghis Khan in a way. Do you know what I mean?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, so I'm not all over this, but I know there's statues. I know there's this veneration of this leader and this hero for them from hundreds and hundreds of years ago, because it still engenders the same ideas and same visions of freedom, of hope. Do you know what I mean? And that's what Bulgorg is here. He's not just a killer and destroyer of guilders. He is the hope that, Terry Two Chainsaw Arms actually can have something that is not attached to a guilder, can have a life, an existence that is not governed and completely run by somebody wishing to make credits off their existence.
Also, I think Bulgorg is amazing because his arms were literally chainsaws.
Yeah, yep.
We've joked a lot about chainsaws this episode, but his arms were literally chainsaws. He was someone who could not do anything but fight, and it gets to a point where he's just said, "Enough is enough. If I'm going to fight, I'm going to fight. If I'm going to die, I'm going to die. It doesn't worry me, but I will raise an army. I will fight for what's right." And at the end of the day, much like I believe Spartacus, or was it Gannicus, or I don't know. There's lots of strange names. It took someone from the inside to betray him. And the very William Wallace, and the fact that the guilders parade him and they kill him and they hang his head up there. But even now, people are still going like, that wasn't Bulgorg.
Yeah,
They didn't get Bulgorg. Like, they got someone, absolutely, but it's not. It wasn't him. And whether it was or it's not, it doesn't matter, because you can kill a person, you can kill an army, you can kill people. You can't kill an idea. And I think Bulgorg will remain an idea.
100%. Yeah. Of this, it's the idea of hope and freedom. Do you know what I mean? For the most oppressed at this level, completely owned, completely dominated. As we mentioned earlier, the light at the end of the tunnel is death in the arena.
Yep.
Maybe winning your freedom, which is very, very unlikely, escaping, or death in the arena. The realistic outcome is that not making out of here is the best thing for me, because I'm taken away from this hell. Now imagine being in one of those trains that pulls up into Dead End Pass, and suddenly you're being released. You've had maybe one or two modifications done to you. Maybe you've had your forearm replaced with just pure armor. You know what I mean? But you still manage to keep your hand and your upper arm, and you're like, okay, well, I know I'm going to become a pit fighter of some description. And then you're being told at Dead End Pass, you don't need to do that anymore. You need to find some level of existence here. Don't kill those around you. Don't, for use of a better term, shit where you eat, sort of thing. But at the same time, be prepared to defend this with everything you've got.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that kind of hope. I've said this so many times about how chaos cults happen. This is how chaos cults happen.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You're changing the belief system. So this person comes off the train. They may be adorned in icons of the Emperor or the Imperium and so forth, but the Imperium never saved them from this. The Imperium or the Emperor never pulled them up out of a train and said, you have a chance here to be something that was never on the cards for you. All you have to do is make sure you protect everybody who's here. So then that loyalty gets questioned about, is it the Imperium I'm praising, or is it Bulgorg?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so you could see why it also becomes such a deadly thing to have this hope and this freedom there, because you can't have that. But this is the absolute bottom level of the society here, and they're being given something that they've never had before, that hope. And that's why I love Bulgorg as well. It is the most weird way to have hope in the Imperium. Like, it's still a pit fighter. Like, he's still going to chop you to bits. He's not some, noble soul who's sitting there going, okay, well, for the benefit of the community. He's still looking out for himself. But in doing that, he needs to be able to give other people hope.
Yeah.
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 And,
At the end of the day, he is still a mechanically and bionically modified murderer.
exactly. 100%. Let's not excuse that fact from happening. But the byproduct, the offshoot of it, is being able to create a different idea, vision, and concept of freedom, hope, and engagement. But it's not for the Imperium. It's for Dead End Pass. It's for
Yeah.
Bulgorg. It's for my community. And exactly what I've said many times before, this is how cults start. And it takes very little for that cult then to germinate into chaos, or, when we say chaos, one of the big four, obviously not Malal.
One of the good ones.
One of the good ones, yeah. Or becomes, some offshoot, off-brand version of the Imperial cult that, steps so far away from the I guess, the common teachings that any inquisitor or sister worth their salt would just go, oh, no. We understand you praise the Emperor, but you do it in a very wrong way. So you're going to need to bite the curb here, because you are too far gone. You know what I mean? So, but anyway, that detracts from what I'm talking about. But the hope that Bulgorg gives is the same thing that the pit slave chief is giving as well. You know what I mean? That's that. When he escapes, he's saying, I'm creating something better for us. Let's get out of here. Whether it's a lie, whether it actually means it, doesn't matter. But that is what helps people get together and get the hell out of the arena or dodge.
Yeah. And obviously, I know we mentioned him on one of our Patreon episodes, but there is the supposed son of your boy, Bulgorg, Core 2 Guns Koran. And I don't remember what episode we went. I know we've gone over him.
We have, definitely, because I don't like him.
He rescued. Yeah, you don't like him. He rescued a rat skin, and the rat skin was just like, yeah, you're a mighty hero. You're the son of a mighty hero, and because he's this big fat guy, he's just convinced himself that his dad was Bulgorg, and he didn't want to cut off his own arms, so he just bought 2 auto pistols, and now he calls them 2 guns. Yeah, and he's an ally of our friend and benefactor, Narco Lord Balthazar Van Zep, beloved leader of the Free State of Zep.
That's perfectly right. Exactly that. But that's my issue with him, is that he doesn't have the commitment to cutting off his hands and putting chainsaws there. Like, you know what, mate? If you're going to claim Bulgorg status, you can't just be two pistols, Corin, or whatever your name is. You need to be Killy Chainsaw Hands, Bulgorg.
Okay. All right. So, gang ideas. Do you have one? Because I've got one that's brewed over the last hour or so, and I even know how I would build them. So, naturally, you would think I would go the Goliaths for this.
Yeah.
No. I'm building them out of Orlocks, alright?
Okay.
Because something that's not really been mentioned in this, and something that was a staple in gladiatorial combat throughout the ages, has been dogs.
Oh, I
would build them out of an Orlock gang.
Yeah.
And basically do them as just full-blown close combat, lots of pistols, but lots of dogs. The leader has 2 dogs, the arms master 2 dogs, and you would go very heavy on the armor, but you would do them almost in the gladiatorial style. So there was like I think it's the testudo type gladiator where they have the shield and the sword. Then you do them with primarily close combat weapons. You'd try and do real well at the trading post and get lightning claws and that sort of thing.
Okay, yeah.
But no real long range weapons. Shotguns maybe, but then I would do things like I'd try and buy webbers, so
To represent your nets.
your nets.
Yeah, cool. Cracking idea.
You try and get shock staves and that sort of thing.
Yeah.
Because in my mind, these pit fighters would be trying to capture the ones who attacked them previously to enslave them.
Oh,
I would be doing them as almost, a do unto others what they have done unto us.
Yeah, righto. Okay.
Really twist it up. But from that, I mean, the Arms Master is going to be your big, solid pit fighter champion. Getting a techno, you can look at the is it the Grease Monkey who can screw with the Wrecker's jump packs.
Yeah, I think so. But you can even get like a tech merchant or something along those lines. Like,
I would go an Ogren or an Ambot basically straight away.
Yeah, right, perfect. I think that would work really well if you did have a slave Ogren in there. Do you know what I mean?
Oh, heck yes.
Yeah, it would just tick the boxes straight away. I would, I really like this gang idea because, they're basically hunters of guilders is what you'd be looking at.
Yeah.
Right. That's really, really cool. That is, I like that. And so how would you, like, I guess they would be off the record sort of thing, like, not allowed to be on any guilders books or anything like that. They do very limited missions for anything upper hive, but their main objective is you'd need a whisper merchant, I reckon. Definitely a whisper merchant.
I would straight up do them as basically their whole mission is to get revenge on the ones that have enslaved them, to get revenge on the ones who caused this pain against them. So their attack, I would be specifically in my mind tooling them up, where your Juves would be those servitors we talked about before. In fact, I take it back. I'm not going the Slave Ogren or the Ambot. My first purchase is going to be the Lugger Servitor for the Orlocks, because it's on the tracks. It's got the big, it's got the heavy bolter. Lots of harpoon launches.
Yeah.
Very and you'd build them all ramshackle. Use your idea before of maybe a couple of the gangers are actually just servitors with combat programming.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so you have these figures that are sort of a bit more sentient than an actual servitor.
Exactly.
Yeah, right. That's cool. And that's how they hunt. They don't rely on just having drooling weapon platforms. They actually have things that have smarts about them. So the gang is recruiting pit fighters and pit slaves from not the ones who have just allowed themselves to become, these abominations of weaponry and armor with a human tucked away in there somewhere, but humans that have survived this process and understand the purpose of their need for revenge and vengeance upon things.
Exactly.
So you're having pit fighters who need to still have their brain and their soul about them, who aren't just like, I spent 10 years in there, all I want to do is kill. And now that I'm out, I want to kill. No. I want somebody who wants to kill with a purpose. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's how I'd drive them. Then, your trading post, you'd be going for shock staves, web guns, things that will assist you in capturing. You would never hire bounty hunters. You would be really sticking to outlaw, options and outlaw hangers-on and that sort of thing. You'd have your slopper who was, escaped with you from the pits, and, you'd have your, what are they called? The ammo jacks and that sort of thing there, and you'd model them up really almost ramshackle in every respect, because each of them knows that when they sign on to this, there's only two ways out. They either free everyone on Necromunda, or they die horribly.
Yeah, cool. I love it.
It's that
Yeah.
gang mentality of, you leave two ways.
Yeah.
You know, on your feet in combat or in a box.
Yeah.
Like those
Delivered to the corpse starch factory. Yeah.
Exactly. And
Cool.
but you'd aim like your arms master. You'd do some of them where you try and you'd buy the Slavers Guild box because that box is amazing, and those two pit slaves with the chain glaives, man, they're brutal. That's how I go. That's my gang idea. But I would do it because I would want a lot of combat animals, lots of those dogs, as many dogs as you could get, and the wreckers would be amazing because you would do them as literally almost I'd do them as almost suicide servitors. I'd do them as servitors that have these jump packs strapped to them, where their whole mindset is to just get in combat and attack, because they're not very skilled. Wreckers are terrible when you first get them. You really have to level them up for them to be good. But get them in there, so they're just tying someone up in combat, so your real gangers can get in there and land that killing blow.
I love that
or
idea.
web them, but do the wreckers as servitors,
Yeah. But it's almost like a one-shot use jump pack.
Yes.
Obviously, in game terms, it's not, but in your mind, it's like if it lands on its target once, high fives all round. Well done. You have done it incredibly well. Now just start punching, kicking, biting, screaming, whatever you need to do. You know what I mean? I love that. And that if it fires off again, another high five. If it fires off a third time, well, we've put too much technology into you, so we're going to scale that back.
And that's exactly that. I haven't even touched on that. You'd model the backpack as bionics that are built into them.
Yeah.
I didn't even think of that. Perfect.
Yeah, it wouldn't be this attachment. It is something that integrated into their back. Do you know what I mean?
Yep.
Yeah, cool. I really, really like that idea. That's awesome. It's sort of giving a credo to these pit fighters and these gangers and saying, you're going to live or die here, and the only way to live is to free everybody. So just face the fact that you're going to die here, but we're on a mission to end the barbarity and cruelty that has been done to you.
Yeah.
Yes. I really like that, because the modelling ideas that you can do, again, it's one of those things that you're never going to really, really out of punch through onto the tabletop, but it's definitely something when you're, role-playing the gang, you can be like, yeah, those jump packs should be one use. That particular pit fighter, yes, he's a bit smart, but he got hit in the head too many times. So, you know what I mean?
Exactly.
He came to us with the right intentions, but now he is just as good as an arco-flagellant in terms of being able to give instruction or guidance or focus on. So, yeah, my gang idea is a little bit different. I really would like to be able to pay homage to the old N95 gang. Do you know what I mean? So this is less about the lore and more about the miniatures. What I would love to be able to do is create a gang that uses all those ridiculous weapons we've talked about. The shears, the rock drills, the buzz saws, all those kinds of things. So taking I would imagine a Venator gang is probably the best starting point for this.
Perfect.
But the idea is that it's not the pit chief or the pit fighter chief. He's long gone. His brain is long since cooked it. He is, for use of a better term, just a walking amalgamation of weapons. So
Yes.
the techno is the one who effectively runs this gang now. Do you know what I mean? And they see their methodology of how they used to fight in the arenas as the best way to keep these individuals alive. But their concept of alive is very, very loose. As long as there is the human form somewhere in there, then they classify them as alive. You know what I mean? I don't need to be able to sit down and discuss, the geopolitical structures of Necromunda with this individual. I just need to know that there is a human element still able to communicate with me in some way, shape, or form. So therefore, I would justify that pit fighter as being alive. You know. So
Yeah.
anyway, the idea for the gang would be to try and put all of those big silly weapons onto the characters. So you get your Venators and you get... I'm not that well versed with the trading post that I'd be able to go, yeah, this weapon and this weapon and this weapon. But I imagine you'd be able to get something like, a two-handed chainsaw. So it is now mounted onto the side of the fighter. And so it represents this unwieldy, god-awful weapon just smashing through things. Big old power claw type weapon, big buzzsaw, big hammer.
Let me grab my rules compendium, and okay, so heavy rock saw, yep,
Yep.
two-handed, heavy rock drill, heavy rock cutter, chain glaives, all of those are two-handed weapons. Then you have power hammers, power claws, power fists, lightning
Yeah.
claws. Like,
See, lightning claw is probably a little bit too much on the fancy side. Oh no, do you know what? You run them as shears. That's your shears. Right
oh
there.
yes,
That's your
perfect.
snips. So that's
Yes.
your lightning claws. So I would run this as a techno who believes that he's doing the best thing by his gang by keeping them alive. You know what I mean? So long ago escaped with the boss, but over time the boss has slowly deteriorated into more machine than man. And so the techno is taking over the gang and saying, this is the only way I know how to keep our legacy, our memory alive. And that
Yeah.
is by making more and more fighters who are more like the boss. Do you know what I mean? Because over time, the brutality of what they have to do, from where they've come from, the attachments that they need to be bolted onto them and put onto them, begin to wear away at their humanity. And there's nothing less and less of that left. So you only have this single spark of humanity in the gang, which is the techno. And
Yes.
the techno is just doing his utmost to keep everybody ticking over. You know what I mean? So obviously this gang won't use slaves or anything like that, but they're still not the the epitome of humanity. They're not missing out on raiding a caravan because that caravan is full of unarmed civilians. They go, well, we're going to raid the caravan because we need the bits and bobs that are in there. We need the tech. We need the vehicles. We need whatever else comes with it, because we are still trying to survive, because that last vestige of humanity that the techno is trying to hold on to needs to be drawn from anywhere. And that it means even taking on innocence as well. I know it's probably a bit heavy, but
No, I think that is perfect.
it's sort of, to me, it's like a bit of sadness in there as well. Like the techno understands that, like, yeah, I've got to, if like otherwise we peter out and we die. You know what I mean? And all this, the fantastic escape we made, the evil that we destroyed and killed along our way, will all be for nothing, because we will be forgotten about. We will be a less than a memory in people's brains.
Damn, man. That's
Made you sad?
that's killed me. Oh, all right.
I feel like, and the last thing I'll say about it, I feel like the techno is working against time itself. Do you know what I mean? He's just like, I've got to keep these boys going. I've got to keep them ticking over. You know what I mean? So, yes, I will put these components, and maybe they're all sitting around the the local fire or campfire or whatever the case might be, out on the ash somewhere, and there's basically no communication, just the techno talking to his former friends, and it's just
Yeah.
grunts and clicks and maybe occasional words that come through these days, as opposed to the 10 15 cycle of 10 15 years ago, where there was conversations had but all of that has been just beaten out of them because of what the pit fighter life has made for them.
Damn. All right, you've
Bringing it
brought me
down.
on this one. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that looks like it's the end of your episode, and
It feels like the end of it.
yeah.
Makes me sad. So
well, Scummers, if you were listening to our Enforcer episode, you've probably learned that we will be taking January off. And our first episode in February, we are actually going to be doing a listener lore. And this quarter's competition is going to be all based around the military and enforcers of Necromunda. Basically, I want your ideas. I want your lore for your Necromundan PDF, your Necromundan regiments, your enforcers may be off-planet. Not just because I want to hear what you're all putting together, but because I want to steal those ideas and put them into my Necromundan 26th. During this time, so between now and February, we'll obviously have Christmas and New Year's, and Nathan and myself are looking forward to some time off. We will still be doing our Patreon episodes, but the main podcast itself won't be back until about February. Or like the last week of January. I don't remember what we said. I think it was the last week of January.
Is sort of
I think
what
we're taking
aiming
4
for.
weeks off.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's almost becoming enforced by our families as well. So that's
my wife has been very clear that I'm not allowed to call you during that time. But yeah, so in the meantime, like closing everything off, thank you for this year. We hope you have an enjoyable Christmas time. We hope you all get some amazing hobby. Remember, steal your family's phones and credit cards. Sign up and subscribe to our Patreon and on your preferred podcast platform, and get our T-shirts and steal the identities of your loved ones, because they're not going to report it to the police because they love you. All right, it is a victimless crime. Please don't any of you do that, because I will not be held responsible.
Please don't do that. Let us be very clear about it. Just continue to support us in any which way, shape or form that you like to. Thank you for all your support so far. This is only going to be a short hiatus for us, and the stuff that we're going to be working on in January should definitely make the show run probably a little bit more streamlined in the future.
Yeah. Everything's going to be so tight. The episodes will be like 68 seconds each.
Yeah, exactly. And be fulfilling though. You're like, wow, that was best thing since sliced bread. Yeah.
Yeah. So I guess we're signing off for 2024, and you have one hell of a quote for the end of this episode, and it's a little bit wordy. I think it's the biggest quote we've ever had for this.
Well, I'm not reading it, so I don't care. So
yeah. All right, here we go. Podcasting voice. What would you know of struggle, perfect son? When have you fought against the mutilation of your mind? When have you had to do anything more than tally compliances and polish your armour? The people of your world named you Great One. The people of mine called me slave. Which of us landed on a paradise of civilization to be raised by a foster father, Robite? Which of us was given armies to lead after training in the halls of the Macradian High Riders? Which of us inherited a strong, cultured kingdom? And which of us had to rise up against a kingdom with nothing but a horde of starving slaves? Which one of us was a child enslaved on a world of monsters, with his brain cut up by carving knives? Listen to your blue-clad wretches yelling of courage and honour, courage and honour, courage and honour. Do you even know the meaning of those words? Courage is fighting the kingdom which enslaves you, no matter that their armies outnumber yours by 10,000 to 1. You know nothing of courage. Honour is resisting a tyrant when all others suckle and grow fat on the hypocrisy he feeds them. you know nothing of honour. And that was Angron, Primarch of the World Eaters, to Gilliman, Primarch of the Ultramarines. And that was our latest episode of the Underhive Lorekeepers podcast. I am Spamil, and on behalf of the Lorekeeper team, thank you for listening. Please follow us on our social media pages available in the show notes, and don't forget to follow and review us on your preferred podcast platform. As always, if you have questions, complaints, corrections, or if you simply want to rise up against a society that uses and abuses the people that make it whole, please reach out to us at underhivelorekeepers@gmail.com. Thanks.